All right, guys. So today I have a little bit of a different video for you, and it is spirit guided as to why I did it, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions as to why I feel the way I feel so strongly about Trump. And again, this isn't meant to be a political video. I am going to put some numbers at the end to try to prove a point because I keep being told that um I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm misinformed. And we had many people leave the group because I would post something and then people wanted to argue about politics, and that's never what it was supposed to turn out to be. I'm a true speaker, and I give voices to those who don't want to say their voice, can't say their voice, or their voices were taken. That does not matter if the person is still alive or not. Spirit has been pushing me very strongly, and I'd like to think maybe it's Trump's wife. Um, to kind of put things out, and me being a true speaker and a light worker, part of the path is to try to help people to wake up. And I know the only way to truly do that now is to make this sort of video with the proof, because if we look at him like a criminal, okay, which I feel he strongly is, and we look at it as we are building a criminal profile, okay, does that mean that I'm going to be able to get through to everybody? No. But me just talking about it, me just saying it is not going to be enough. Just like any case that we look at, there needs to be, what do we do with that, right? We build evidence, we build a profile, a criminal profile, we build a pattern. So, what I'm wanting to do is to build a pattern. And at the end, I'm going to support it with numbers. Like, if all of this isn't good enough for you guys and you still want to support this guy for some weird reason, then here's the numbers to prove why you don't need to. Okay. Um, so that's the only time I'm going to bring the politics into it. What I wanted to do was show a pattern of crimes, but the biggest crimes I wanted to show were his sexual assault allegations. That's the biggest ones because these are voices that are trying to be heard but are being victim shamed. And I think that's where it comes from, is that I see a person that has been getting away with things for so long and has never been held accountable. And everybody is victim shaming people that come forward about him, or they get threatened, or they're too scared. I had somebody say to me yesterday, well, why haven't they come out before? They've tried, but they've been threatened. They've been victim shamed. There's one that I'm going to show you that can't even show her face, her voice, and has changed her name because she was 13 years old when it happened. Just because somebody that's a victim does not speak out at that time does not mean it did not happen. A lot of times they're scared. A lot of times they have in their mind that no one's going to listen to them. And then we go and people prove that. They prove that they don't get listened to. It's very, very sad. And I really think what angered me so much is that people are being ignored about what they're saying. Yet it's not just one person saying it, and all the stories are the same. How much evidence do we need to see that this man is a complete lunatic that does not need to be running the country? So the biggest thing that I want to show people is their stories, and I have to do this, I think, like a reaction video or show you some things and then talk about it because of copyright things. So I'm trying to teach and show and critique. Um but that's my biggest thing, is that I'm a voice for those, and it doesn't mean if anybody listens to me, I don't care. If people don't want to believe their stories, then that's something that they have to deal with. But we take a man, and what are powerful men capable of? Powerful men are capable of getting away with things. They're capable of paying people off. They're capable of threatening people. That's the whole point that money brings. Now, I'm not saying that there's not other corruption in the government. I'm not saying there's not other corruption with other presidents. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of baggage here. He is way more dangerous than a lot of other presidents we had because of his malignant narcissism, because he has no care for anybody else but himself. And although I feel like he might not make it to election, I could be wrong on that. And I just want to show people the truth about who he is. Build a criminal profile for you. Build a profile with evidence. All right. So in here, in this video, there's going to be, I'm going to go over first, the way that he talks to women, the way that he acts, right? So we can always go by someone's actions. Then I'm going to show you people that have spoken out. Then we're going to go into things he's committed, his personality, and at the end, like I said, I'll show you some numbers and whatnot. And that's the only really political part I want to go into, because that's important to some people. Like, even if they don't think, even if they're like, okay, I'm going to follow this horrible guy anyways because he's making all these promises, which he's making many broken promises because all he knows how to do is lie, then that's important to some people. Okay, so I've been piecing together videos that I feel will build a criminal profile. Please do not take this as political. Like I said, I'm only going to throw in the numbers for people that need that and that's important to them. And because I keep being told I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm talking about. Although I've been doing research for about 2 weeks now, because Spirit made me go down this rabbit hole that I never wanted to go down and never intended to, because I feel like they feel like it's important for me to expose the darkness in some way, shape, or form, even if this is totally different than what I'm used to doing. You think I wanted to spend a rabbit hole, 2 weeks down a rabbit hole of Trump? Hell no, I did not. But I found out a lot of stuff myself that I didn't know. And so the proof is there, but we're not here to victim shame. So if there's any comments about anybody saying, oh, well, they should have spoken up sooner or blah, 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 just save it. Because until you've been a victim yourself and you put yourself in those shoes against a powerful person, you don't know how you would act. And again, this channel is for voices for victims. It doesn't matter who the perpetrator is. It doesn't matter who the victim is. Okay? That is why we're here. Women, we have to be their voice. We have to be their support system. When does it come that we put a man on a pedestal that we don't know? We have multiple women saying he's done these things to them. Why don't we believe them? Especially ones that have been in similar situations before. And I have to warn you that there is going to be some pretty vulgar things that come up in this. So if you cannot handle listening to stories about sexual assault, you may fast forward. If you cannot, there may be some things in here, so there is viewer discretion is advised on this video. And it's clips off of things that I found. Some, again, are just building a psychological profile. Some is building his actions and whatnot. People have been saying for a long time that he's very dangerous, but he has the way of speaking to people that make him believe him, much like a cult leader would. And I actually have proof of that in here. So everything that I show you guys is going to be from professionals, they off of documentaries and things like that, or out of the women's mouths themselves. So let's be their voice. Let this be very important to be heard, because this is super important for me to make my point as to why I've been so onto this. And when I listened to these stories, I was pissed off. Now, that, again, that's not saying that other people don't get away with things like this that are in office or wherever all over the world, but this is a lot. This is a lot. And in my opinion, I feel like he was, and we'll go into that. We'll go into that whenever I show that part. I have to have stuff to have commentary on, right? So, all right, I'm going to start with showing you some of the things he said and his personality and whatnot. And I just got some more stuff that I can add to this. It just came in. It's one skeleton that's coming out of the closet. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to this video as well. And it does kind of run along the political things, but this I'm wanting to clear up misconceptions and lies that I keep hearing, and I keep being told, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Proof is there. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak. So, that's what I want this to be about, the proof for us to see a criminal as he is. And I would do this with any criminal that I had a lot of crimes and I was trying to prove to you guys something. So don't just take it as it's a Donald Trump thing. There's a lot of baggage here. There's a lot of criminal things here. And he's the one running for president. He's the one that should have never been in office in the first place. And he's the one that has not done enough to make our country better for us to support a man like this. Period. And I will show you proof at the end of this. If you hang to the end, you will see that. So what I'm going to show you is going to be mind-blowing. I hope that it opens people's eyes, and that's the whole point why I want to do this, because people think I'm a raving lunatic, I'm all into politics and whatnot. No. Spirit is trying to show you a dark being. They are trying to get you broken out of one mindset and to see things for what they are. And that is why I'm here. That is my purpose. It's still having to do with crime. It's still having to do with truth. So it doesn't matter if you like it or not. That's what it is. So I'm excited for this video. I hope you are too, because I've got a lot to show you and it's so important that people see it. And there is one thing I want to say. For those of you that like Trump in the past, follow Trump in the past, I urge you to watch this. I urge you to see things for what they are. This is because we're doing things because they're the right things, right? We want to do things because they're the right things. We don't want to divide. We want unity. But we also want to know the truth and be informed as well. So I also saw the saying today, try being informed instead of opinionated. So what I've been asking people to do when I've been getting a lot of slack at is, because I'm asking people to research and inform themselves, but no one wants to do that. So I did it for you. All right. So here we go for real right now. And I hope this gets shared to people that are open-minded. I really do. So I'm going to quit blabbering now, and then we're going to get going. Sorry, I had some stuff to say there. All right, so here we go.
Side or girls on the younger side. Trump brought his kids around Epstein. Trump hung out with Epstein all of the time. In fact, Epstein would traffic women from Mar-a-Lago. It's an undisputed fact. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims, was trafficked from Mar-a-Lago. She was found at Mar-a-Lago. She was homeless. She then got a job at Mar-a-Lago after being homeless. And then Ghislaine Maxwell found her at Mar-a-Lago and then brought her to Epstein, trafficked her from Mar-a-Lago and then brought her to Epstein. And then
in prison, and so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Documented and undisputed. There was a party, a yacht party Trump was on in Manhattan, the Spirit of New York, where 14-year-old girls were brought on this yacht. Donald Trump and older men were on the yacht, according to the Guardian article. Older men, old enough to be the girls' grandparents. Here are the photos of the girls, by the way. And here's another photo of the girls with Trump taking a photo with the girls from the...
Now, remember what we're doing here. We're trying to build a criminal profile based on actions. So the way he talks, the things he does, the positions he was put in, could he have possibly done other things? I mean, Mar-a-Lago, we're talking about a girl being trafficked out of there. Like, he didn't know about that.
Look of clip.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women.
Terrible coffee while you're around
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan now?
I think she's hot.
There's something there, right?
Yes.
But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest.
Yes.
and a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles?
He's a wreck, like the way he is.
Right.
You imagine the sex with this troubled...
Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
Back in the day...
How come the deeply troubled women,
Yes.
deeply, deeply troubled,
Right.
they're always the best in bed? If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable. I can tell from the...
Or just some other clip.
Is it normal to see men in dressing rooms at pageants and the owner of the pageant?
No. The director of the North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Alabama pageants, it's very much a family atmosphere. She doesn't even go backstage when the girls are getting ready. Only the female chaperones are allowed backstage in the dressing rooms with the girls. I've never had an experience where there were men or directors or anything like that walking back in the dressing rooms.
Yeah. As I understand, there you have an experience of something that happened the night before the pageant?
Well, not the night before the pageant, but when we were in New York City on the media tour, they were doing a book launch at Trump Towers for the Universal Beauty book, and they had a bunch of former Miss USAs and Miss Universes and all 51 of us, and we did the red carpet, and that was tons of fun. And then they lined us all up, and Trump went down the line, and he shook your hand and, looked you and was just checking everybody out.
And you thought you felt?
I felt very dirty. It was very creepy. It's kind of like when you're at a bar and a creepy guy is checking you out. That's
Tasha Dixon, Miss Arizona 2001.
I mean, can you imagine, like, just changing and he just walks in and starts looking at you? I mean, that tells a lot in itself. I was in pageants growing up. Thank God I was in kid pageants, and then I think I was one when I was 18. I couldn't imagine that. That's just, he doesn't care. He doesn't give women the respect in that way.
Talking about what Donald Trump would do. Play this clip.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked.
As Miss Arizona 2001, Tasha Dixon competed in the Miss USA pageant. Donald Trump owned the contest along with Miss Universe and Miss Teen USA for 19 years.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked, changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him.
And Dixon has strong opinions about what she thinks were Trump's motivations.
I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
Dixon, who lives in West Hollywood, was 18 at the time.
Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him.
The year she competed, the theme was empowering women. And after hearing recent audio of Trump talking about women, she decided to speak out.
I miss Arizona, so I veer more on the conservative side.
That in of itself is just kind of disgusting to me. I don't know about you guys. If that was your daughter, would you want a grown man walking in on your daughter? Remember, we're building a profile here. So everything I show you is a part of his personality. It's a sneak peek into who he is. Okay? And some of these may repeat because they were on some of the clips that I got as repeating. So there may be a couple repeating clips like this one.
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Tiffany have of yours, and what does Tiffany have of Marla's?
She's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but
it's crazy when he says legs, he points to like the chest area. That's not where the legs are, in case anybody didn't know that.
Time will tell.
Beautiful, really beautiful, is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine. And, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, "Who the hell is that?"
Okay, listen to what he said. I've known Paris Hilton since she was 12. When she first walked into the room, I said, "Who the hell is that?" Therefore, he was checking out a 12-year-old. Thinking what he was thinking. Just putting that there.
Did you want to bang her?
Is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like
everything is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women.
And so he's looking at these women naked, and they have no say about it. Like, he's probably just walking in. They don't even have a chance to cover up.
Ivanka, play this clip.
She does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
What? Who says that about their kid? Just saying.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
If I weren't happily married.
I don't know about you guys, but I was raised, you don't talk that way around your kids. That's just really, I don't know if he just doesn't realize the words that are coming out of his mouth. Like, it's like, I'm thinking these things and I'm saying them without thinking, which is gross in itself, I guess.
And, her father.
My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very.
He said, yeah. When he said a piece of A, he said, yeah.
Very voluptuous.
It's
She's tall. She's almost.
And by the way, I've shared this before. Ivana's deposition testimony, where she accused Donald Trump of raping her. And then she took it back and said that she didn't mean it in a literal sense. And she asked for a retraction in the book that reported on her deposition. And she said, I didn't mean it in a literal sense, after Trump's lawyers got involved. And I think she had to sign a kind of a non-disclosure agreement or a legal agreement there. But, this is the Pandora's box.
So, why do you think she took that back? Because she was scared? Because she felt threatened? I mean, they seem to be good at doing that. And you'll see as we go along. Oh, now this is one of his victims that spoke out. She spoke on several videos. I did not know I was going to run across a video with her in it again. And the reason why I want to show both videos is she tells the same story. So this is the first video that I found, and there's something after it as well. About the 13-year-old. So if you want to stick around now, I'm telling you that this part does contain sexual assault allegations. It does contain a story about it. And the 13-year-old's story is highly disturbing. So I wanted to remind you guys of that. It's really disgusting. And when we get to that, I'll go more into it. But this is the first story from.
Feel sick, violated.
Amy Doris is her name. She visited.
My name is.
See, she's very detailed with this. If she was lying, I'm pretty sure she's not going to make up a whole story. Plus, just because a woman comes out and speaks about this, it doesn't matter who the guy is. It does not mean they're telling a lie. And we should never assume that. You can tell she's very uncomfortable because he just thinks he can have whatever he wants.
No, it can't be.
Until now, we now know that the accuser is Katie Johnson. The most recent federal filing includes 3 affidavits, one from Katie Johnson herself, and telling you about the Jane Doe who filed 3 federal complaints about.
She did, but then she dropped them. And as you can see, what really bugs me about this, she's so afraid to show her face. Her voice has been altered, and she's afraid to use her real name. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because she's lying? Like, why would she even bother to do that? No, it's because she's scared to death because of the people probably that are involved in this. And what happened to her is real, and she is scared they're going to come after her, threaten her.
Donald Trump, against Donald Trump, for alleged child rape in.
I guarantee you that she backed out because she got too scared or was threatened by someone.
Connection with a party that she attended involving not only Donald Trump, but also Jeffrey Epstein. And this allegedly happened back in 1994. The alleged victim was 13 years old at the time.
And can you imagine, like, okay, I'm a 13-year-old. Not only sometimes when women are in the situation they feel like they put themselves in, it's kind of embarrassing. I know mine was, but it's like also, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to believe me? I'm 13 years old with these powerful men.
We have not learned that much about the victim until now. We now know that the accuser is Katie Johnson. The most recent federal filing includes 3 affidavits, one from Katie Johnson herself, previously known to us as Jane Doe, plus 2 more, an eyewitness named Tiffany Doe and also a Joan Doe, a classmate of Johnson's back from 1994. Now, Johnson's story has been the same this entire time throughout all of these court proceedings. She recalled being approached by Tiffany, who allegedly worked for Jeffrey Epstein at the time. Tiffany invited Katie Johnson, who was then an aspiring model, to an event in Epstein's home to get to know people and maybe get a modeling job. And throughout the summer of 1994, the lawsuit alleges that Johnson endured, quote, savage sexual attacks by both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I have video testimony I'm going to play for you.
So this isn't just one time. This is multiple times. And people want to say he's not involved in the trafficking. Bull crap.
I want to warn you, it is disturbing.
Sorry, but this one made me so mad when I first saw this and I first saw the stories of all the women. I could feel their emotions and I was ticked. I don't know about any of you guys, but the fact that he's not been held accountable, no one's listened to them. And everybody was very mean to them when they came out. That's what makes me upset. What kind of world do we live in where they can just get away with whatever they want? And their word is over these women, yet we know that he lies constantly, and I will prove that to you later.
Has been altered and her face has been blurred. Notwithstanding that, this is disturbing. I am again giving you the opportunity to skip past this or to come back in about a minute and a half. Let's listen to Ms. Johnson here.
Second time that I saw Mr. Trump was same scenario. He was onlooking at an orgy, and Tiffany came over to me and said that Donald Trump had requested that I perform oral sex on him. He came in, and I was basically tied to a bed with pantyhose, and he tried to, they were so tight, it hurt to even lay there, and I tried to say something, and it was like, you just, shut up, shut up, bitch, this is basically like he was being really, really rough, and I started to get scared, and he was, basically ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out, I just turned into this animal. It was like a completely different person. I couldn't do anything about it.
Poor girl.
And he ripped off all my clothes, and he started to basically have sex with me, and I was screaming because I'd never had sex before. It was my first time, and
yeah, appalling and dreadful. Now, of course, Donald.
I agree. Appalling. Okay, of course, he goes on to say that Donald denied those accusations, but I think you can see she's obviously telling the truth. It's very detailed. You can tell she's uncomfortable. And again, we're building a pattern. Okay, so I don't know who we're gonna listen to here. Okay, here's some more lewd comments. This is the one that maybe you guys have seen before, and actually it's probably going to repeat in the one with the women's stories because they have them kind of react to it. But this is, I know maybe many of you have seen it probably before the last election, but I think this says a lot about him. Yes, a lot of people will say, oh, locker room talk. But when you put it all together with his personality and the stories from the women, it kind of paints a picture, doesn't it?
On her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. No, this was marriages, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they.
So what is he doing? He's admitting that he just does whatever he wants. He touches them, he kisses them. And I want to play this before I play the women's stories, because it's painting a picture of what he feels like he can do.
Let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy. You can do anything.
Pull the ham.
She's totally changed her look. I better. How are you?
And you don't like.
I'm gonna go back.
I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy. You can do anything.
Pull the ham.
Hello. How are you?
And you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account record. It was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct.
Now watch, he doesn't even answer the question. It's kind of ridiculous. And then he puts her down because she asked it.
I've been challenged.
This is called gaslighting.
By so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country.
Did he even realize what he said there? I don't have time for total political correctness. What? Are you supposed to be politically correct? You're going for president.
Doesn't have time either. This country is in big trouble. We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico.
Look how negative he speaks about our country.
Both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody. And frankly, what I say, and oftentimes it's fun, it's kidding, we have a good time. What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megan.
Okay, what he says is what he says. Pay attention, because that's going to make sense later.
If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't.
Oh, that's not the one where, well, that is kind of gaslighting, but there's another one that he gaslights the interviewer. So he does that to a lot of women, by the way, in case you want to go look at some of the times. I was going to put that in here, but he does do it a lot to a lot of different women that are asking him questions.
Other women now who claim that there'd been sexual harassment.
They probably do love their names splashed across the front pages. You say, oh, hello, darling, how are you? And you get sued because you've destroyed somebody's life. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I'm sure that they're just saying sexual harassment for no reason, yet you just said you could grab them anytime you want, right?
You have a young woman that was in his room, his hotel room, late in the evening at her own will. You have a young woman who was seen dancing for the beauty contest, dancing with a big smile on her face.
Planned Parenthood should absolutely be defunded.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman.
That's crazy. Punishment for abortion, but yet I'm sure he's had plenty.
Yeah.
Do you think she felt pressure to come back after 3 weeks?
I don't think so. I think she loves her job.
She wouldn't have felt a need to do that because you might have replaced her otherwise.
No. Although it's an interesting premise.
I have been better to women than any of these candidates, frankly.
Lie.
And you consider yourself...
This one. Now watch. This is gaslighting. This is E. Jean Carroll. This is like the deposition. Okay, so this is some of the deposition from that.
To be a star.
I think you can say that, yeah. She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue. She's accusing me of rape, of raping her. The worst thing you can do, the worst charge.
I wish that they would put the people that read body language on this.
And you know it's not true too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace. But she's accusing me and
You're a disgrace because you're a political operative. You're a disgrace because you're asking me questions. Okay, gaslight.
so are you, of rape, and it never took place. And I will tell you, I made that statement and I said, well, it's politically incorrect. She's not my type. And that's 100% true. Doing right. It's a big fat hoax. She's a liar and she's a sick person, in my opinion. Really sick. Something wrong with her.
Jury finding that he did not. They're saying no to rape, but yes to sexual assault. Where do you think the disconnect is there?
I'm going to tell you. Well, I guess I'll wait until after I play this clip.
Lisa.
I think the disconnect is that E. Jean Carroll, and Katie, I'm going to ask for your pardon here because I'm about to get graphic. E. Jean Carroll said that she couldn't really see whether Donald Trump was penetrating her with his genitalia. She knew that he had first inserted his fingers into her vagina. She felt him do that. And then she thought that she was penetrated by his penis, but she couldn't say for sure, in part because she couldn't see it. And so that uncertainty may have been part of what motivated the jury's verdict on the rape count. That notwithstanding, she was so unambiguous about the sexual abuse, and that plus the corroborating evidence that Ron pointed to, not only the fact that she called Lisa Birnbach from the sidewalk outside Bergdorf's, talked to Carol Martin 2 days later, but the testimony of Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, whose own experiences with Donald Trump not only echoed E. Jean Carroll's, but were basically
Hello, pattern.
A, come to life version of the Donald Trump playbook as enunciated in the Access Hollywood tape. I think that that's partially what helped get this jury over the line on the sexual abuse count.
Breaking news involving a woman who claims Donald Trump raped her when she was 13.
KCAL 9's Peter Dowd is live in Woodland Hills now, where the woman was set to go public less than an hour ago. Peter.
Yeah, Lena and Juan, definitely some confusion here since that woman who was accusing Trump of raping her when she was a child decided not to appear. Instead, her attorney came out and said that the woman was too afraid to speak. Media from all over the world came out to hear what that woman had to say. Now, this was a planned news conference, but it didn't happen. The woman had filed a lawsuit alleging Trump sexually assaulted her at several different parties in 1994 when she was only 13 years old. Attorney Lisa Bloom said the woman, who has gone by the pseudonym Jane Doe, had received numerous terrible threats and gave a short statement.
Jane Doe has received numerous threats today, as have all the Trump accusers that I have represented. She is
all the Trump accusers, and with E. Jean Carroll, she probably couldn't tell the difference because it's so small. Just saying, that's why he's so obsessed with crowd sizes. But
living in fear. She has decided that she is too afraid to show her face. She's been here all day, ready to do it, but unfortunately, she's in terrible fear.
Bloom is the daughter of attorney Gloria Allred, who has also held press conferences with women accusing Trump of sexual assault, but Trump's attorneys have vigorously denied those allegations, and they're threatening legal action.
Before this appearance in 2000.
Oh, but I don't do anything at work. But look at that. Is that appropriate for anybody? Just saying. There was people that said that he sexually harassed them. I mean, okay. But that poor girl. I mean, that's what I mean. The reason why they're not coming out is because they're being threatened. They're being threatened. There's probably way more, but they're so scared. That poor 13-year-old, I feel so bad for her. Like, it's awful. I feel horrible. Can you imagine all the therapy and stuff that they have to endure? And right now, us women, like, again, we don't need to be putting them down and not believing them. We need to be their voice. We need to be standing up for them. This is what makes me so mad.
2004, Trump uses an intern's back to sign a release form.
I could do this all day long.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it.
Yes.
Must be a pretty You dropped to your knees.
Yes.
Must be a pretty picture you dropped to your knees. Pregnancy is never, it's a wonderful thing for the woman, it's a wonderful thing for the husband, it's certainly an inconvenience for a business. Where are you from? Go ahead, come here. Where are you from?
I'm so sure that his kids love to hear that they were an inconvenience.
We have all of this beautiful Irish press. Where are you from? We could say politically correct that the look doesn't matter, but the look obviously matters. Like you wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful. If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird.
Start and I'm ready.
In the wake of questions and allegations about Donald Trump's behavior towards women, ET discovered this footage in our archive, which we provided to CBS News.
Soon. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Okay. Hope people are getting the picture now, and you can see a picture forming and painting of who he is and what's been hidden and why women are afraid to speak out.
He's done so many things, but there's this long list of women that nobody's talking about. I don't know how many women it would take to come forward. I mean, it shouldn't take this many women.
Exactly. She has a point. It shouldn't take this many women, for crying out loud. And this is kind of the first one. And the only reason I want to play her story again is so that you can see it hasn't changed.
Amy Doris is the latest woman to accuse President Donald Trump of sexual misconduct. Since she spoke out last month, she's been hiding out at a friend's.
Can you believe that she has to hide out and she couldn't even be in her own house? Ridiculous.
What have the last few weeks been like for you?
They've been kind of a roller coaster. It's nice to be in my house right now, but it's strange. And there's like Trump flags across the street.
Yeah, you've got a lot of Trump signs all around this house.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how these women feel with this man being put on a pedestal and people seeing he does no wrong and inciting violence for him, and seeing how much people like ignore everything and how they treat them for trying to tell the truth?
It's just kind of unnerving.
Doris is one of 26 women who have accused Trump of sexual misconduct, ranging from groping to kissing to rape. Vice News spoke with several of these women.
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet.
That recording told me that this is something he does.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it.
Because you're a star, they don't care. We do care.
You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
That's crazy. He's just totally admitted it, of what he did to me all those years ago.
I moved on her like a bitch.
People were shocked, but it didn't surprise my husband or me at all. And we were sort of like, okay, I'm glad that the world can see what he's like.
It was sort of like redemption to hear it.
It did amaze me that this had been exposed. It also amazed me that Trump floated to the surface
Nobody cared.
and went on without any sort of retribution for his behavior.
He's admitted it on tape that he does these things. Like, what more do you need?
Doris met Trump in 1997 when she was visiting New York on vacation.
I was 24. I was dating this guy, Jason Ben. He asked me to go with him to New York, kind of a long weekend. And we went to see Donald Trump, and we all went to the US Open together. We went up to the VIP booth. Then I went and sat with the ladies for a little while watching the match. Got up to go to the bathroom. And when I came out of the bathroom, Donald was standing there, and he
was doing all this when he was married, by the way.
like put his hands on my arms.
Was he talking to you? Was he saying anything?
He would say stuff like, you belong with me, and then he like leaned in for like a kiss, and I kind of pushed him away, and then he kind of came in stronger and started like holding my arms where I couldn't move. I used all my strength to try to get away from him. The more I pushed, the tighter his grip got. I felt stuck, I felt trapped. And that's when he like forced the kiss and put his tongue in my mouth and like forced everything on me. And That's when I pushed his tongue out with my teeth and probably hurt his tongue.
What were you saying to him?
No.
See, everything is the exact same, and it doesn't feel rehearsed. She just feels uncomfortable talking about it. It seems.
I was like, no, and
I think the giggles are anxiousness. I giggle when and kind of laugh when I'm nervous and stuff. So I kind of see that. I know people are probably going to say something about that, but it's kind of weird. It makes you uncomfortable to talk about. We kind of giggle when we're uncomfortable.
it didn't mean no for him. So he just forced himself on me. I've never had any other man do that to me.
Doris said she confided in several individuals about the incident at the time, a number of whom, including her mother and close friends, corroborated her story with us. Trump's lawyers responded to Doris's claims by saying that Trump had never harassed, abused, or behaved improperly towards Doris, and that if her version of events were true, there would have been witnesses. Do you think that it was a concern of his?
Would have been witnesses. Yeah, I'm so sure that someone's standing there watching as this is happening. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That it was in a public space, or?
I don't think it was, because it was his public space. It was his box. The people that were there were invited by him. I don't think it was
No one's going to speak out against him, period. We've seen that.
a concern to him at all.
The stories these women tell are strikingly similar. The alleged unwanted kissing or groping would occur seemingly out of the blue and often in public places, some even in the exact same locations.
This person thinks it's that I am just his property. Almost like he owns the US Open. I hear, who's this? We don't know this one.
Pattern, US Open, pattern.
Oh, look at these legs. I kind of looked around thinking, is he talking about me?
I was on an airplane, and sitting next to me was kind of a blondish big man, and he introduced himself as Donald Trump.
One day when I was at work, it was probably maybe 8:45 in the morning, I saw Trump outside at the elevator bank, and I got up and introduced myself.
So I was sitting on a couch in the China Club. It was packed, and he was sitting to this side of me. And then all of a sudden, I just feel this.
Does anyone notice he kind of has a type with blondes? I just now recognize that. I mean, I think one of them isn't, but interesting.
Hand, like a pinch, on my girl parts.
He just came over, put his arm around me, and then he slipped his hand in and went to the side of my breast, and then he held my breast.
He took my hand and gave me sort of the double cheek kiss, and then he would pull me back in and do it again. And he would kept kissing me on my cheeks, and I thought, well, this is weird. And
I don't think there's any with the actual RAPE on here, but this is still assault.
And yeah, finally he pulled me in and kissed me on my lips.
He leaned into me, and he was trying to kiss me and trying to put his tongue in my mouth. He was dominating me.
I never actually met Donald Trump. He never introduced himself to me. I was never introduced to him.
One of the things that was so shocking about it was the fact that literally, other than, how do you do, my name is Jessica, there was no conversation.
As I moved and looked over my shoulder, that's when I saw the eyebrows, because he had...
That's the problem. He thinks he can do and get away with whatever he wants. He said it to the world. And then these women are saying this, and no one's listening. Come on, people, wake up.
These crazy bushy eyebrows.
I went home that night and told my boyfriend.
By the way, his eyebrows are now falling off of his face. In case you guys haven't seen that.
And just cried. We talked about it, and just there was really no recourse that we saw.
Never breathed a word. How do you do? My name is Jessica. There was no conversation.
As I moved and looked over my shoulder, that's when I saw the eyebrows, because he had these crazy bushy eyebrows.
I went home that night and told my boyfriend and just cried. We talked about it, and just there was really no recourse that we saw.
Never breathed a word of what had happened to anybody. Shuffled it away in my memory as something that I was not going to forget.
And I just kind of figured, well, I guess he figures he can do what he wants. Because he's Donald Trump.
The Access Hollywood tape surfaced just days before the 2016 election. But it wasn't Trump's comments that made these women speak up. It was his flat-out denial.
I believe it was the second debate. He was asked, did you ever molest a woman?
Have you ever done those things?
Have respect for me, and I will tell you, no, I have not.
I was like, no, like this, he's lying like he always does.
I found myself standing in front of my TV, yelling at the TV, and I thought, I know what I will do. I'm going to write a letter to the editor.
These vicious claims about me of inappropriate conduct with women are totally and absolutely false.
Yeah, but how do we even know he's telling the truth since he seems to lie about everything, which I'll show you later on, but I don't know, there was something else I wanted.
Once women started speaking out, the backlash was immediate. A lot of people have accused you of speaking up for attention.
There was no...
And since when does anybody even admit it? Like, he's gonna admit it to anybody. Come on. And this part is disgusting. So anybody that gave them backlash and was mean to them, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. We do not treat other women this way. And this is one reason why I decided to do this, for anybody that wants to know, is because we have to be their voice. We have to stand behind them. We're all sisters in our, we're all connected. We're all universally connected. We're all one consciousness. We have to support one another.
There's no good attention that comes from speaking about something like sexual assault for anyone. And I had no idea what the aftermath would be like. I had no idea.
I have a lot of family members are Trump supporters. And they just thought that I was lying. And that I got paid.
There were comments about my looks, you're a liar. Someone wrote, you should put a gun to your head, do this country a favor.
There was everything from like, I don't even like Trump, but you're pathetic.
All over this man. All over this powerful man, because no one wants to believe it. And they must just be lying. That's assumption that they're lying. And again, why would they speak out if they're going to be treated this way? Like, this is exactly why people don't come forward. Victim shaming.
Pathetic to, oh my God, big deal, get a grip, he grabbed your breast, get over it. We know where you live, we're going to find you, you and your family are not safe. It was a living nightmare.
Doris also watched the debate, but she didn't come forward at the time. Why is it that you didn't choose to speak up earlier?
Well, when everyone was speaking up, I got really frustrated because I was like, I know they're telling the truth because it happened to me. But my girls were 8 and my kids got older, and I talked to my therapist about it. I really, really went into the what could happen and how can we prepare for it. I finally came to a place in my life that it was time for me to come out.
Trump's legal team have said that the fact that you're speaking up now so close to the 2020 election suggests that this could be politically motivated. Is it in any way politically motivated?
No, it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with me and my family. I've volunteered on campaigns. Both those campaigns were Republican, by the way. I worked on Jeb Bush's campaign. If he wasn't running again, I think I'd still come out.
Neither Trump's campaign nor the White House responded to requests for comment. Trump has continually denied all allegations.
I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that organ.
And this is not all of them. There's 26, and they said they range from this to worse. I mean, look what you did to E. Jean Carroll. It was proven in a civil court. Why is that any different than criminal court?
I'll walk in there, I'll kiss everyone in that audience.
It makes me wonder why the prosecutor didn't pick it up. I know that rape cases are very hard to prove because it's usually someone, one voice versus another voice, one versus the other. There's not usually proof, especially if someone's so scared at the time. Oh, that reminds me, I do want to play the witness from E. Jean Carroll. I accidentally skipped over it, so I'm going to go back to that after this.
Kiss the guys and the beautiful women and everybody. I'll just give you a big fat kiss.
Even as his behavior towards women again comes under scrutiny, Trump is making a desperate bid to get women to show up for him next week.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go back to E. Jean Carroll's witnesses because it's important what they say, and I just now remembered I had it. So
For E. Jean Carroll, the woman accusing the former president of rape in a New York civil trial, called 2 witnesses today to bolster her recent testimony. Lisa Birnbach, a longtime friend of Carroll, described the phone call she says she received moments after the alleged attack in the mid-1990s, and how Carroll was, quote, breathless, hyperventilating, and emotional. The second witness, Jessica Leeds, claimed the former president sexually assaulted her on an airplane in the late 1970s. The former president has denied wrongdoing in both accounts. Senior legal affairs correspondent Paul Reed joins us. Paul Reed joins us right now from the courthouse with the latest. So, Paula, what more can you tell us about today's testimony?
Well, Anderson, Carroll's attorneys put on these witnesses to help bolster their case. For example, when it comes to Lisa Birnbach, a contemporaneous account of this alleged assault is so critical because we're talking about allegations of something that happened nearly 30 years ago. So to have someone say, look, in 1996, I remember she called me almost immediately after this happened. Here's what she sounded like. Here's how I interpreted it. What was interesting is Birnbach said she told Carroll at the time that what she was hearing about was clearly a rape. But she said at the time, Carroll, she didn't want to see it in those terms. She still saw it as a fight or as a tussle. But her account is definitely something that can bolster Carroll's case. But defense attorneys on cross-examination tried to highlight her dislike of Trump, pointing to posts that she's made that make it clear that politically she's not a fan of Trump.
Well, of course, I wouldn't be a fan of him either if he did that to me. Come on now.
Who alleges that she was assaulted on a plane in the 1970s by Trump.
But I know they're trying to use that against her, which typical, right?
She said that she was upgraded to first class, seated next to Trump, and that he allegedly tried to kiss her and grope her. Now, Trump has denied those allegations.
Okay, of course he denied it because that's what he does. He denies everything. And I'm going to show you proof of things that he said that are proven true. Okay, so let's see where we're going next. All right, so from those assault accounts, we're going to go to Trump and Epstein's connection, flight logs, things like that. And so here we go.
Labor under President Trump has come under intense scrutiny for the non-prosecution deal, which has been called the deal of a lifetime. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein have a history together as well, having known each other since the early 1990s. The New York Times reports that Trump hosted Epstein for a private party in 1992.
So is it so hard to believe that they didn't have parties together with young women and that didn't happen to that 13-year-old? Come on. Birds of a feather flock together. He was involved in this, and we all know it. And things can be hidden, which I think, and I'm hoping that's going to come out at some point, because I really think he was on the island, and that's just been covered up. Because if we think about it, all the hush money he's paid for other little things, imagine what he would pay and do for that. They just haven't uncovered it yet. So, just saying, you kind of are who you hang with. And if he's having parties with him, hello, people, hello.
That included dozens of women brought into Mar-a-Lago to entertain just Trump and Epstein. Trump claims that he and Epstein had a falling out and haven't spoken in 15 years. Federal prosecutors are now urging other...
Show flew on his jet several times. President Trump is quoted with glowing words about him back in 2002.
He is. In fact, we have that from 2002. He talked about him to New York Magazine, saying that he's a fun guy. I've known Jeff for 15 years, he said in 2002. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey.
He says truth all the time, and people don't pay attention. And he does it accidentally.
enjoys his social life. Obviously, that's seen in a far different light today. But you're right, there is a connection here. You mentioned former President Clinton flying on his plane multiple times, being on his private island. President Trump reportedly at least once on his plane. The two reportedly dined together. And at one point, Epstein was actually a member at Mar-a-Lago and had been to Mar-a-Lago. But then,
not to bring up with you the current
to Mar-a-Lago, where they used to traffic women out of. Come on, guys, connect the dots. We're seeing a pattern here. What do you do if you're looking at a regular criminal, not necessarily Donald, and you see all of this? Think about it. Let's pretend it's not him. Let's pretend it's a random person that we're studying for my channel criminally.
Labor Secretary Alexander Ocasio, who is very tied to this because he was a big part of securing this sweet plea deal for Epstein back in 2008.
Between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein isn't new news. Trump admitted he knew Epstein for 15 years, even stating that Epstein, quote, likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. In 2021, as part of Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, it was revealed that Donald Trump lied about riding on Epstein's plane. He actually flew on it 7 times, but the flight logs do not include the ages of the passengers. Trump and Epstein were sued by a woman who went by the pseudonym Katie Johnson.
So he flew on it 7 times. And I'm going to show you a video where he said he never flew on it. So what does that tell you? It's probably the opposite. Because he wouldn't admit to that. Come on.
Johnson alleged that Trump raped her at a party inside Epstein's New York home. But that case ended up getting dismissed by a federal judge, and then she herself dropped the lawsuit too.
That's the one we saw earlier, and she was so scared that she backed out. She had been threatened and threatened and threatened, and she backed out. So that's the one they're talking about. He did it once. He probably did it multiple times with all these parties he had at Mar-a-Lago and everywhere else. And now why you're not admitting you were on the planes if you've got nothing to hide?
More times, all in the span of 2016. And then there was another woman. Her name was Sarah Ransom. She claimed in 2016 that Trump, Bill Clinton, and others were involved in Epstein's sex trafficking scheme, but she ended up recanting those allegations 3 years later.
See? Right there. I've been saying that. They're all involved, but yet she's recanting it because she's scared to death. Look who she's going up against. Presidents.
Later in 2019. But there's new misleading claims about Trump and Epstein, and they're circulating on social media after the Palm Beach County grand jury records from 2006 were unsealed. In the nearly 200 pages of grand jury testimony, though, Donald Trump isn't mentioned one time. So what's the real story for you?
But there he is. Just watch.
The real story is the way the prosecutors victim shamed and berated the victims. They were girls as young as 14 years old who had been sexually assaulted and manipulated by Epstein, Maxwell, and others. And those prosecutors just turned around 2 years later, knowing all of that they did, and they cut a sweetheart deal.
Welcome back. Several high-profile names were mentioned in a batch of documents released yesterday pertaining to the crimes of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. 40 exhibits in the settled case against longtime Epstein confidant Ghislaine Maxwell were made public last night. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison last year for recruiting teenage girls to be abused by the late billionaire. But the documents were related to an earlier lawsuit against her for civil defamation. Among those named in the more than 800 pages yesterday were former presidents Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, though they are not accused of any wrongdoing. Trump's name came up during witness testimony from one Epstein accuser who recalled the sex offender saying he would, quote, call up Trump to visit one of his casinos in New Jersey. The same woman testified that she never gave the former president a massage.
And I thought, you know what? Let's just see what they're saying. I have not seen any mention on their account. This is Mario's account on Twitter. I have not seen, when I look at Trump, I don't see any mentions to what you're about to see regarding Trump on any of these recent.
Because even it was hidden from like social media outlets. It's not anything huge, but there's a lot of redacted stuff. And I seriously think this isn't everything. Like, Spirit's been showing me skeletons coming out of the closet, and you're going to see one here in a minute that's just come out, or in a bit. But still, I think there's going to be more that we're going to find out later on about this.
Posts from Mario on Twitter, which is weird because X has been known to start maybe leaning more right. Mario, you're saying you're unbiased, bro. Put this up because it's in the same files. Now, again, I don't have a horse in this race. I don't care. I'm just going to show you all the documents in the 328 pages, and this is what they're hiding. This is what the Twitter is not showing right now. And again, we don't know if this is true. These are in the court files. You could go to pacer.com, sign up for an account, and get them yourself. I don't want you to think like I'm somehow biased and showing something versus not. I'm just going to put it all up. The case number, if you want to put it in, it's 1:15-CV-07433-LAP. You actually don't even have to put the LAP in. It comes up with.
It's weird because it's the first part of my name. But what I want to say here is if he's in this much, that proves that he was involved in some stuff there. Again, it might not be all. We're looking at a pattern here. Think of who he is. Think of how much he could get things buried. But still there's little snippets of evidence. Now, if this was anybody else, people would be freaking out over this evidence. If it was any case that I was doing, we know we would, right? So what's the difference here?
Without the lap. Okay, that's a weird word. But anyway, this appears to be, and we don't know, this could all be bullcrap. All of the case documents could be bullcrap, right? So let's be very clear about that. But what we do know is that this document is within the entire file set. You could go to page 316 if you do it in order. And it says here, this is all it starts with. Like, there's nothing before it. It just says Exhibit 6, and then it literally says this. Several girls at any one time. She confided in me about her casual friendship with Donald. Mr. Trump definitely seemed to have a thing for her, and she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert nipples. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her nipples until they were raw. One evening when we were showering together, she showed me her nipples. They looked incredibly painful as they were red and swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them. I also knew she had sexual relations with Trump at Jeffrey's New York mansion on regular occasions, as I once met Jen for coffee. So, Virginia, who's one of the plaintiffs in this case, goes by the nickname Jenna, which could be shortened Jen here. We don't know with certainty. So I wrote Virginia because I think it's Virginia. Now, if you look at the bottom of this, it actually says that this file is an exhibit from Ransom, whom we believe to be Sarah Ransom. Sarah Ransom was 22 in 2006 when she was supposedly first abused by Jeffrey Epstein. And according to her, via the Daily Mail, a JP Morgan employee told her not to report the abuses she dealt with the Epsteins. Remember, Epstein was a JP Morgan client from 1998 to 2013. I added all this red text here, right? But what's interesting is Virginia started working for Epstein allegedly when she was 16 to 17 in 1999 to 2000. That would make Virginia underage. Sarah is talking about Virginia but the problem is Sarah didn't start working for Epstein allegedly until 2006. But by 2006, Virginia wouldn't have been 16 to 17. She was.
Even if the girl was not underage here, okay, this is still a pattern of the fact that he did these types of things. He was around Epstein doing these types of things with girls and parties. And now we want to look at the 13-year-old and what she was saying. I mean, if we're looking at a criminal and we're looking at a case, it puts him basically in, if this is showing that he does hang out with Epstein with girls, right? And she's saying that happened. So is it more believable? I think so. I believe her anyways. And I don't understand why anybody wouldn't. It was very brave of her to speak out.
Would have been 22 to 23. So is it possible that Donald Trump is involved or was involved? Yes. Does this suggest Donald Trump was involved with Virginia when Virginia was underage? No. This does not suggest that Donald Trump was involved when Virginia was underage. The most this alleges is that Donald Trump fondled a girl's nipples who was between 22 and 23 named Virginia. That's really what this document alleges about Trump. I do think it's interesting that certain groups are hiding this and are not talking about this. I don't know why, but I guess that's just how the game is played on social media. Maybe it's unpopular to do.
Yeah, because everyone wants to hide that because they know how it makes him look and where it puts him. It puts him at Jeffrey Epstein's parties. It puts him in that area of those people. That's why. Okay.
And I quote
Here's
him.
the proof of
This
the
is what
flight
the
log.
Democrats do to their Republican opponent, who is leading them by a lot in the polls. This is AI, and it is very dangerous for our country. Also,
You want to hear something funny about that? He says this is AI and it's very dangerous for our country. I don't have the video here, but you can look it up yourself. He was saying that Kamala's crowds were AI'd, but yet there was video evidence, there was proof that that was all bull crap. Then he turns around, he's bitching about that. Then he turns around and he goes and makes AI Swifties for Trump. But yet it's horrible and he just used it for his own self. And why he thought anybody would believe Trump was Taylor Swift was supporting him is beyond me. The guy's totally lost it.
I was never on Epstein's plane or at his stupid island. Strong laws ought to be developed against AI. It will be a big and very dangerous problem in the future, end quote.
His English sucks.
Here is the problem I have with this, not the AI part, that was awful. I have a problem with what he said because only part of his denial may be true. There is no record of Donald Trump ever visiting Jeffrey Epstein's Caribbean island, Little St. James. That is clear. But there is plenty of hard evidence that he rode on Epstein's plane, and not just one time, 7 times, at least 7 times. And we know that because his name appears in flight log submitted to the FAA. Here's what they reveal. Trump flew 4 times in 1993. He flew once in 1994 and again in 1995. Those are in addition to a flight that was previously reported and documented in 1997. All of the flights were between Palm Beach and New York City. And the logs show Epstein was on board the plane with Trump as well, each of those times. The 1994 flight is notable because Trump's then wife Marla Maples is also listed on the flight log. And according to those logs, they decided to bring along their then infant daughter, Tiffany Trump, as well as the family's nanny. They are all on the log. On the flight in 1995, the logs say that Trump also brought along his then 12-year-old son, Eric Trump. So, again, these are documents that are submitted to the FAA. These are not just claims made by someone in a deposition. So it is hard to sort of reconcile when the president says, I was never on that airplane.
Exactly. So it's showing he lies. You can't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. I think he holds the record for the most lies. I know the last one of the last when he was at Mar-a-Lago, I think they counted like 162, 167 lies, something like that, in 67 minutes. He's literally saying right here that he's never been on the plane, but there's proof he was on the plane. So what does that tell you guys? And, you know, obviously he was around all those girls and whatnot because he's in the documents, even if it's not all the documents. I really think there's been stuff buried. And I want to say my commentary and stuff, that is my opinions, okay? So that's how I feel. That's my opinions. You're free to have your own, but I'm just commenting on what I'm seeing.
But something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. These files were released, and like Donald Trump sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein, with young girls on board. He is on call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And by the way, he was convicted in a civilian court for sexual assault, convicted in a separate court of 34 felonies. Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
I had to put that because I agree with it. So now we're going to go into the psychology of Trump. Okay. As from psychologists, and this is from the Unfit documentary. These are literal psychologists. They explain to you how they're able to kind of like diagnose, because it's usually like human behavior they're able to look at. So here we go.
Stotis, I'm a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst. I've spent most of my research career looking at compulsive and addictive behavior. And I've become interested in the importance of psychology and politics in recent years because of the threat to our country.
My name is Justin Frank, a psychoanalyst and a psychiatrist. I've been in practice in D.C. for about 40 years. Is Donald Trump fit to serve as the president and commander-in-chief? I can answer that with one word: no. Trump is a sociopath, a sadist, a con artist, a racist, a misogynist, a sexist in general, and I think it is a problem.
For president, and a now defunct magazine, Fact Magazine, did a survey of psychiatrists and published an article saying psychiatrists think that Goldwater is unfit. Goldwater sued them, and he won. And as it turns out, actually, he deserved to win. It was libelous. He was not unstable. And this.
I'm showing this because there's part of this in the documentary that's talking about the Goldwater rule and how they made it to where psychiatrists shouldn't just diagnose people. But then he goes on to explain the difference in then and now.
Psychiatrists who wrote those statements about Goldwater, it's important for people to understand the history of our field. This was in the 60s when Freudian psychiatry really ruled the roost. Freudian psychiatry, though it has many important and positive aspects and helped move the profession forward, it's not been used well in terms of its analyzing public figures. I actually interviewed the last living member of the ethics committee that formed the Goldwater rule, and he said, these were obviously wild speculations. They weren't founded in fact, and so they embarrassed the profession because they were really idle speculations. And so that's why they passed that rule. He said to me, we never intended it to be a gag order, meaning that psychiatrists could never speak up about public figures. We just didn't want them making unfounded statements.
The Goldwater rule today has been incorrectly extended. And the incorrect part about it is that it now is being used to suppress speech about things that are knowable. It's as nonsensical as saying an orthopedic surgeon shouldn't be able to watch somebody in a football injury and say that person probably has an ACL tear. He can say it because he's an expert in the field. Something happened, he observed it.
And what people need to understand is that actually the psychiatric interview is the least reliable method of making a diagnosis, because our current diagnostic system, the DSM, is based on observable behavioral criteria. Well, when you meet with someone, they can lie to you. So they can say, oh, I never did that, or I don't do that. But if you could actually observe their behavior, if you could follow them around, if you could watch them on TV, if you could read their social media, if you could talk to all their significant others, you'd probably get a much more reliable indicator of how they behave.
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
I am more confident in my diagnosis of Donald Trump than any diagnosis I've ever made before because I have more information. But Donald Trump shows clear signs of the most severe personality disorder. It's called malignant narcissism, and it was first introduced by Erich Fromm, who escaped the Nazis and spent a lot of his life trying to understand the psychology of evil. And he formulated this diagnosis of malignant narcissism, which has 4 components.
And I've said this over and over and over again. You know that Hitler was one as well. We'll go into that in a little bit too. But for anybody that cannot recognize a narcissist, but the reason why he acts is because of his personality disorder.
Narcissism, paranoia, antisocial personality disorder, and sadism. I think everybody knows Donald Trump's a narcissist by now.
I will be the greatest jobs producer that God ever created.
I know more about ISIS than...
Did you guys see that? Freaking sparkled. Well, she doesn't sparkle anymore. It just went off. My REM pod. Somebody has to touch that for it to go off. I'm telling you, I think his first wife has been at me for this. I really do. And this thing's been active lately. So you guys, I finally was recording it when it went off.
The generals do, believe me.
Who are you consulting with consistently so that you're ready on day one?
I'm speaking with myself, number one, because I have a very good brain.
But it's the other three components that make him truly dangerous. Because many politicians are narcissistic, but he's also paranoid. So all of his crazy conspiracy theories.
The state of Hawaii released my official long-form birth certificate.
The birth certificate was produced in 2011. You continued to tell the story and question the president's legitimacy in 2012, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah. How about this one about Ted Cruz's father?
His father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald's being shot, and nobody even brings it up.
And his sense of being a victim.
Mr. Trump turned his sights on Google, tweeting, "They have it rigged for me and others so that almost all stories and news."
He did that again. I don't know if you guys know, but you can Google it. He started tweeting on Truth Social about Google again. He did it again. He's repeating the same old patterns.
Is bad.
And his demonization of anyone who disagrees with him.
Nasty guy. Now I know why he doesn't have one endorsement from any of his colleagues.
All right, John, I get to respond.
Man, guys, that was validation right there that I've been doing the right thing. I had wondered for a while if I was supposed to do this. Spirit's idea to make this video. Thank you so much, Spirit.
There. He's a nasty guy.
These are all signs of a paranoid process. Antisocial personality disorder, or what used to be called psychopathy or sociopathy. It's constant lying. Well, he's the most documented liar in human history, I think, at this point. It's violating the rights of other people and exploiting other people. So sexual assault would be violating the rights of other people. Not paying your bills or defrauding people through Trump University would be an example of exploiting other people. And it's breaking laws and breaking norms. Well, he's broken every norm of the presidency. That's one of
Do we really want somebody in government that's going to break all of the laws and doesn't care if they break the laws? Because he's already broken the laws. He incited a riot, which that's going to come up. And he's wanting to use the military now and National Guard instead of police. I don't know if you guys saw that. There's a lot of things he doesn't care. He wants to go into a dictatorship. And I think that's why he's been cozying up with dictators. Now, this is my opinion. He's learning from them, and he's very much like them. That's why he gets along with them.
the reasons he's so out of control. There are certain norms you thought no one would ever break. But it's part of his personality disorder to break norms and to break laws. And it's a lack of remorse. He has no guilt or anxiety about the destructive things that he does.
Impeachment for that? It was beautiful. It was just a perfect conversation.
And the fourth component that Eric Fromm identified is sadism. Truly taking pleasure in harming, humiliating, and degrading other human beings. If you read his tweets, I wrote an introduction to a book about his tweets. I had to read thousands of his tweets, and they literally made me ill because it was just one vicious attack on and humiliating insult after another. It's like, how can someone even come up with thousands of vicious things to say about so many people? But he enjoys degrading and humiliating and insulting other people.
I do think that we have enough evidence that most psychiatrists would feel like it's important to warn about Trump. We have a duty to warn.
Psychologists and really all mental health professionals have the duty to protect society if there's a risk to society.
Fred Trump was a successful businessman. He made a lot of money, and he's narcissizing them.
The authoritarian playbook is a way that these kinds of men capture democracy. After they get power, they proceed to tame the judiciary, they attack the press, and the ultimate aim is to get people to believe that reality is what they say it is.
The fake news, right? The fake news.
He does that all the time, and that's part of a cult, like how cult leaders talk.
They're not about the greater good and calling people to their better angels. They're about fostering a sense of victimization and fear, and how the nation could be purer, and how the nation would be better without X, Y, and Z elements.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
So is it appropriate to compare Trump to Hitler?
I compare Trump to Hitler all the time. And it makes people angry, and I'm not going to stop doing it. And I'll tell you why I'm not going to stop doing it. Because my father was a great historian and student of Jewish history. And he used to say to me all the time, John, the meaning of history is in the Holocaust. We cannot be silent. It's not that he's as bad as Hitler or that he's the equivalent of Hitler, but he has the same diagnosis as Hitler. He's in the same category, that it's a psychological type that can be more or less extreme, but they share these common characteristics. They're cut from the same cloth.
I mean, didn't he put like kids in like concentration camps and stuff? I mean, that's just a little bit. Again, he's cut from the same cloth. That's why I think there was a witness, and you guys can Google this. I'm not saying anything that I haven't seen or heard. And there's a witness that stated that he was boasting about Hitler and liking Hitler at some point. And that's just a witness statement. You don't have to take my word for it. But you have a psychologist here telling you that they have the same psychopathy. They're the same. They're built from the same cloth. So we should be, it doesn't mean that he's as bad, but they have the same diagnosis. And that we should be more serious about that. And these people are really trying to warn it. It's not just one psychologist, it's multiple psychologists. And you see even more coming out about it now. And they're all saying the exact same thing. So how are they coming up with the exact same diagnosis if it's not true?
There is always a tendency for charismatic leaders to bring out the tribal nature of humans. It is very easy to lapse into an us versus them mentality. Rationality will lose every time.
Where is the red line? Where do you say, okay, hey, no mas, I'm not supporting this guy anymore? Where is the line? So it's obviously been crossed by many people, but for me, the line would be when you look at our documents and you look at our Constitution, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela has the exact same language. Go look at their Constitution. They have the same flowery language related to human rights and all of that stuff. But what makes us unique is the checks and balances and the power diffusion in the construction of the government. So if Trump starts to trample on that, then I'm going to turn on him. Have to. You can't disrupt a 243-year experiment for one dude's
Or just for morals and values.
personality.
It has now been a week since the Centers for Disease Control confirmed the first community transmission of coronavirus in the United States.
And I know this bothers a lot of people. And the thing is, and I'm not for mandate vaccines. I've had a lot of, that's my opinion, I've had a lot of clients where it's caused major problems. They were perfectly fine and lost loved ones afterwards. I do know it causes blood clots, cancer, and things like that. And it might react differently in some people than others. I'll never take it. I'm not for the mandates and all of that. But the problem with this is that the problem that I had with this is he didn't listen to doctors. He had people in crowds and he acted like it was no big deal. He's telling people to inject themselves with bleach. Like, the thing is you'll see the way he reacted when the reporter was talking to the medical doctor. Like, he doesn't care what they were saying. That's what bothers me. Is he's not even listening to medical professionals because they don't tell him what he wants to hear. It's either his way or nothing.
Some people are more dependent. Some people are more aggressive. It becomes pathological when you see the whole world through a screen that makes everything fit your need.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus.
It's not just being manipulative. It's a fundamental inability to not be that way.
In this big, vast land of ours, this great country of ours, we have 240 cases. Most of those people are going to be fine.
Donald Trump doesn't care about experts.
You also weigh in on this issue of hydroxychloroquine. What do you think about this, and what is the medical evidence?
Yeah. Maybe 15 times.
He only cares about people who will tell him what he already wants to hear. He makes himself ignorant about almost everything because he only wants to hear what he wants to hear.
We have it so well under control. I mean, view this the same as the flu. When somebody sneezes, I mean, I try and bail out as much as possible. And I haven't touched my face in weeks. In weeks. I miss it.
And one of the most devastating things he's been doing is to emotionally train Americans not to care about others.
And I'm telling you, we have another pandemic coming. Do we want to repeat? Do we want somebody in office that's not willing to talk to professionals and people that know what they're talking about and experts in the field? Do we want him in another time when we have a pandemic? We have to look at that too. Do we want him in control of something like this? Look how he handled it. He let everybody he didn't take it seriously, and he didn't listen to experts. He listened to himself, which was very, very dangerous. And he was only about himself.
To extinguish compassion and extinguish kindness in themselves. He terms it
Pluto and Aquarius brings things like that. And I've seen it. We're going to have something else hit. We don't want him in office when that happens. I don't think we'll have to worry about it, but still. We do not want history repeating itself in that way.
Being tough.
He is giving people a license to hate, to provide a source of anger, to go after each other.
Divide.
How are we all tolerating this? Loyalty is not blind obedience unless you're supporting a demagogue, okay? And so you don't want to ever be like that in your life.
Relax. We're doing great.
The Dow is now down nearly 900 points.
Economists have been ramping up their projections. The virus spreading explosively, like, quote, a bomb.
To be president, you have to exercise good judgment on behalf of the American people for their interest.
They have to go back to work. Our country has to go back. Our country is based on that. I think it's going to happen pretty quickly.
It's got nothing to do with the safety of the people. It's about him. It's not about the country.
He spent a lot of time on Twitter today boasting about the excellent television ratings his news conferences have received lately.
We have Monday night football type ratings, and that these are like Bachelor finale.
He's not fit because he is unable to think. He can only react and attack.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's really bad reporting.
Okay, wait. He doesn't even want to. That's another thing. No empathy. He doesn't want to tell the country what's going on. He doesn't want to let them know everything's going to be okay. That's what we need in a leader. We need compassion, empathy, and somebody that's going to be straight up with us. I mean, what kind of answer is that? That's not an answer.
He is unfit to be president because he cannot think.
The U.S. is surpassing Italy as the country with the most fatalities.
He says he wants to reopen the country with a big bang.
Pursuing truth is to the mind like food is to the body. Without pursuing truth, your psyche starves. It's been starving for a long time.
Say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. If we can hold that down between 100 and 200,000, we all together have done a very good job. I am very proud to be your president. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I mean, this is just demented.
Pretty much. Because I think he could have prevented a lot more there than he did. And we have to, again, do we want him in another pandemic? Because it's going to happen. And I think I'm missing something I want to talk about. We'll see what these videos have in them because I did this last night. I don't remember. But if I have to go find it and share it, screen share it, I will. But let's see. This is going to talk about kind of like some character things. Again, we're building a criminal profile, right? We're like we would with any case.
From the federal government who wouldn't allow black people to move into his apartments. His father said, you've got to be a killer, you've got to be king, you've got to be tough, and he took that in.
Is what you do something you've always wanted to do? I know your father was and still is a real estate developer.
My father was in the real estate business, and I've been in that and other businesses and different things. I like what I'm doing. I just enjoy what I'm doing. I love the real estate business. I learned a lot from my father, more than anything else. I learned a lot.
He wanted to make a name for himself.
They were treated without empathy themselves.
You talk in your book about getting even, the importance of getting even. Is revenge sweet?
I believe strongly in getting even. If somebody has hurt you, if somebody's gone out of their way to hurt you, I think that if you have the opportunity, you should certainly go out of your way to do a number of them. And I've had more criticism about that one statement in my book than any other statement. The clergy is called, the ministers, the priests, the rabbis, they've all said, what a terrible thing to say. That's against our teachings. I just believe it. I believe in an eye for an eye.
If you don't have normal empathy, you're going to mistreat people because they don't matter. There's an absence of loyalty. The absence of loyalty is a sign of antisocial personality disorder. Loyalty at its best means I care about this person, I value this person, so I will stick by this person. If you have a person without empathy, what you find is that loyalty disappears as soon as the other person crosses them. As soon as somebody says, I'm not with you anymore, or I disagree, it flips from you are the greatest person to you are a horrible person, you
And that's where the insults come in at.
are a worthless person, and I will attack you. I will destroy you.
You know, some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people that I think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. You know, I love getting even with people. But
You're going to get even with some people.
yeah, I know. If given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that were disloyal to me.
Here comes one of the things they say about you is that there are ticks within you of vindictiveness.
The people who climb to the top by squashing other people, those are what we call a successful sociopath. Sociopaths can be successful. It's because they're con men. If you're a con man, you're convincing them that you are much better, greater, more caring, more honest than you are.
My name is Rick Riley. I'm a golf writer, and I've known Trump for 35 years, maybe.
Now, this is about character. If you're going to cheat at golf, I'm pretty sure you'll cheat at anything else.
Trump is among our best golfing presidents.
Oh, nice.
For a 72-year-old guy, Trump is a good golfer. He's got a really good, powerful move through the ball, and he hits it a long way, and his putting is good. It's a very wristy, sort of old-school putter. Cheating in golf at all is completely wrong because it's the easiest sport to cheat at. There's no refs, there's no umps. You could cheat every shot if you wanted, but it reveals your character that you don't. Or it reveals your character that you do. And he cheats all the time.
I actually played golf with him with Anthony Anderson one day. Gotcha. And we were all playing together, and we clearly saw him hook a ball into a lake at Trump National in Jersey. And his caddy told him he found it.
It's golf carts to go really fast. He has somebody do that. Only one golf cart at every course he owns goes about 30 miles an hour, and that's his. It's number one. Everyone else goes is about 15 to 18 miles per hour. So he can hit the ball, zip, he's out. You're still, hey, where's Trump? You hit. By then he can kick the ball, move the ball, take it out of lakes, whatever. There's your ball. Usually you would put a mark down, pick up the ball. What he does, he secretly puts the marker on the end of the putter, and then he looks like he's marking it, but really, now the mark is 3 feet closer. That's a way easier putt. He tried to cheat Tiger Woods in a round of golf once. Tiger freaking Woods.
Tiger Woods, for real. Oh, the narcissism.
He's off to the right.
It just shows he can't lose. He can't lose at anything. So how far is he going to go when he loses again? He already incited riots. He's already trying to overthrow if he loses this time, which if he even makes it that far. And if he goes to jail, what do you think is going to happen? He's already putting in his emails, like, don't let me go to jail. Don't let me go to jail.
He's playing against Tiger Woods. They each have a partner. He chunks one flat into the water, splash. He says to his partner, throw me another one they didn't see. I'm like, that's Tiger Woods.
Tiger, we are inspired by everything you've become and attained. The job you've done is incredible.
He's telling people he didn't even play in. He won a club championship that's being played in Bedminster, New Jersey, when he was playing in Philadelphia. And he called in, said, hey, what won the club championship today? And the guy goes, 75, Joe Schmo won it. I shot 73 today, make me the champion. And the pro's like, what? Yeah, make me the champion. I played better here today. So Joe Schmo's name comes off the wall. maybe one of his great moments of his life, and Trump's name goes up.
I mean, come on. Really? Really? Narcissism.
And this has happened over and over again. And then he won at least 6 or 7 times tournaments where he was the only guy playing in the tournament. He'll buy a new golf course, play the first round by himself and Melania, and unless Melania gets hot, he's going to be the winner. And so if you go to any of his courses, his first few years, it's just him, because no one else played. As a writer, I love Donald Trump. I loved him because he would say anything. It was like, yeah, I banged Marilyn Monroe and I punched out Sinatra. And we're like, yeah, what else you got? Because he'd say anything. But as an American, I don't like him at all. He terrifies me.
In the social fabric of the society, you create a systemic rise of populism and you get all of these unintended or unexpected political outcomes. I didn't see it myself, but Trump saw it. And so that's something you have to give him credit for. Here is a billionaire, so you'd have to say this is a completely out of touch dude, but he saw it, I did not see it, and I grew up with it. So take a step back. We racked up $18 trillion of debt. We killed 1 million people in the Middle East. We wounded 70,000 servicemen and women. 7,000 servicemen and women have died, and 22 are dying a day in the United States from suicide related to post-traumatic stress. Our educational system, K through 12, is completely uneven and broken. Our infrastructure completely failed and broken. We have no industrial policy. There's nobody in the United States as a public servant that has a 10-year plan. They don't even have a 5-year plan. So the American population is looking at the situation and saying, wait a minute, this is not working for me. The stock market crashes and the very big bank is about to go out of business. The government sends them $1 trillion to protect them. What about me? And so people feel that the system is rigged and the system is unfair towards them. You call these people deplorable, white ethnocentrics, white nationalists, whatever those like knuckle dragging misnomers, those adjectives of attack on these people, they tune you out. You'd be better served going into those areas of the country and listening to them and saying, hey, you know what? I don't think you're a racist or you're a white trash person. I think you're a person that really just wants your family to have a better life. And as a public servant, I'm going to try to come up with policies that help you do that. David Axelrod said to me, remember, Anthony, people will vote for somebody that they don't like. They gave Richard Nixon a landslide. Nobody liked him. They gave him a landslide. What they don't like doing is they don't like voting for people that dislike them. See the difference? So you standing at a podium calling people deplorable, they're like, okay, give my vote to the orange man. Let's see how he does.
I think Trump speaks to people in a really very good way. He is appealing to people who are hurt, angry, they feel bypassed, ignored, and not taken seriously. The problem is that he doesn't speak to the humanity of the people who don't agree with him.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
We're building that wall and it's going up very big.
If you have any racism in you, Trump's going to let you bring it out. I get to be a jerk again. I get to be 1956 America again.
It's not a racist. There's not a racist. This guy treats everybody like shit. He is not a racist, okay? It doesn't matter if you're black, white, lesbian, transgender. He treats everybody the same, okay? And he went to Elton John's wedding. He's an asshole. That's different from being a racist. He's obviously an asshole.
I've let their worst side come out through Trump.
Get the fuck out of here, motherfucker! Our country! Don't fucking cook my burrito, bitch!
Are you racist? I am the least racist person that you have ever met.
Now look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about?
I have a great relationship with the blacks. I've always had a great relationship with the blacks.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks.
I resisted for quite some time the notion that he is racist. It's more a function of his narcissism than anything else. It's not really racism. that was sort of the way I viewed Trump. That
Okay. Those are just like important parts. I don't want to keep you guys here all night. We're already in an hour and 49 minutes. Hopefully people are still here. So, all right. So we don't have much more to go through, hopefully. So, all right, here we go.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11?
This is called, I think, riots, broken promises, broken laws. So we'll see what's on here. I don't remember what I put on each of these clips.
Files.
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
Does that bother anybody that he's trying to set up that it's phony so that if he's in there and if he's seen in there, people are not going to believe it? Come on. He's trying to plant the seed.
But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
Changed his mind.
9/11, yeah. Huh. Why would Donald Trump be so circumspect about exposing the secrets of Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire child sex trafficker who died in prison, without revealing which of his well-connected elite friends knew about and possibly even participated in his...
See, he promised manufacturing jobs in Ohio, and there's another one after this, and he never delivered it. Broken promises.
Bring back manufacturing jobs to this state. What do you make of that?
He promised, but he didn't.
What is promised a $10 billion investment by Foxconn to build a new manufacturing complex, create 13,000 new jobs. In fact, he came here with your Senator, Ron Johnson, literally holding a golden shovel, promising to build the 8th wonder of the world. Are you kidding me? Look what happened. They dug a hole with those golden shovels. And then they fell into it. They wasted hundreds of millions of dollars of your state and local tax dollars to promise a project that never happened. Foxconn turned out to be just that, a con. Go figure. My predecessor made promises which he broke more than kept, left a lot of people behind in communities like Racine.
About the view.
You kind of train your eye to stop at the pine trees and not look past.
The Mahoneys were the lone holdouts when the village of Mount Pleasant bought up their subdivision.
We used to have a nice park view, lots of trees and cornfields.
To make way for a giant manufacturing complex for Foxconn. She says the price was lowball. She also had her doubts about Foxconn's grandiose plans.
It's a big I told you so. And do I feel good about saying I told you so? No, not at all.
This is the 8th wonder of the world. Former President Trump and former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker promised a high-tech mecca well worth the nearly $4 billion in state and local incentives. The company promised 13,000 jobs, but almost immediately there were what Foxconn called unanticipated market fluctuations. They built the plant, including this sphere, not clear what it's for, and they are doing some light manufacturing. But instead of 13,000 jobs, it's 1,500 tops.
It was a silver bullet.
With this issue, and it's being solved at a state level, and people are very happy about it.
So no regrets?
No regrets, no. I wouldn't have regrets. Again, I did something that most people felt undoable.
Look at him, narcissism at its finest. I did something no one else could do. It's almost like he did it just so he could do it because everybody thought it was undoable, not because he cares about anybody.
They didn't want it in the...
It went off again. Holy crap, man. This thing's been active lately. It went off the other night. It went off when I text Steven, and now that's the second time it's went off during here. So don't tell me that Spirit hasn't been pushing me to do that because that right there was a validation.
Federal government, it shouldn't be in the halls of the federal government. It should be in the state governments. And I was able to bring it back to the state governments, and now the people are voting.
Is cult-like behavior. Just listen to the way he framed it, talking about people who are in denial about January 6th.
I feel bad for those people because they are essentially in a political religious cult. And their cult leader, Donald Trump, is telling them they can't believe their own eyes, the evidence of their own experience in their own ears. So we should try to embrace those people and help them through what they're going through. Because
Which is what I'm trying to do, because even if you didn't do January 6th, honestly, come on, people, open your eyes.
they've been fed lies and they're swallowing the lies. And some of them may have thought they were clever at the beginning, that they could just go along with it and not believe it. But many of them have allowed the lies really to seep into their soul, and it's beginning to rot their minds.
Raskin told the New York Times that he's ordered books about cults and deprogramming to try to understand his Republican colleagues.
I know that you wrote a book, Dr. Hassan, called The Cult of Trump. Can you help us understand the cult of Donald Trump?
Yes, the cult of Donald Trump is best described as him, first of all, as the absolute leader who demands total obedience, who has a malignant narcissist personality, which is the stereotypical profile about
They are all saying the same thing, malignant narcissist.
the way of other cult leaders. But the specific pyramid structure controls people's behavior, information, thoughts, and emotions, and demands complete obedience. So in that cult, people have a black and white.
What do you say earlier? They had to be obedient to him, otherwise he wants revenge.
All or nothing, good versus evil mindset. They're controlled through fear and manipulation of information. They have phobias that are installed in their heads, thinking that if they disobey, terrible things are going to happen to them. And really, people have reported it, and I was in the Moonies cult myself, so I can tell you firsthand. It's like a radical personality change where your real integrity, your conscience is put aside by this new cloned identity that suppresses you. And fortunately for me, I was deprogrammed at the request of my family, and I started to reality test again, and that's what
I keep talking about. People need to be deprogrammed. I mean, I've seen it a lot in my group, which is sad. You know, people for Trump that are arguing against factual information because, again, it's an opinion. It's not, like I tell people, become informed, not just opinionated, which is what I did for 2 weeks before or for a week. That whole time I was talking about stuff, I just wasn't like saying stuff out of my butt, you know? So, sorry, I have to react to this so that
it's led me for 44 years to help others get out of destructive authoritarian cults.
I can see how some hardcore Trump supporters could be described as cult members, but I can also see
there's a perfect example of this. I didn't clip it off. I thought about doing that, but I literally saw one of the members. First, they have all these weird ideas that aren't even true that can be fact checked over and over because they're listening to someone that's lying to them. But not only that, but I saw somebody say, "Oh, Trump could literally kill somebody on the white steps of the White House, and I'd still have his back." Like, what? What? Have they lost all moral and character? Like, are they like trying to be like copy his the way he is, or just because it's that cult member that, you know, he can do no wrong? And that's what I think the biggest thing is that everybody looks at Trump and like, oh my gosh, he's this great person, he can do no wrong. I really need people to wake up. I always just say he was the Antichrist. I don't know if he is or not. I've heard some, you know, things against that. We could have more than one. I don't know. I've always seen destruction with Trump every time I've looked at him years ago. And again, I don't care if people like that. That's what Spirit showed me. They used to show me destruction with him all the time. And that can be symbolic in a way of, you know, people following him and causing destruction, or it could literally be our destruction in some way, shape, or form. It can be symbolic.
a lot of people watching this saying, we actually dislike his policies. We feel we don't want our taxes raised. We agree with him vis-a-vis China. We want to be strong internationally, or whatever explanation they may have that supports their point of view. 74 million people. Are you saying they're all members of a cult?
So I'm acknowledging 74 million people voted for Donald Trump in the last election, but I would doubt that most of them believe that Donald Trump is an agent of God or has all of the answers. I think many of them who voted for him were already Republican, for example, or they bought into the disinformation campaign against the Democratic Party. But for me, the real sign of a cult member is the inability to see the possibility that the leader could be bad or wrong.
Which has been what the point I've been trying to make, while being a voice for the victims that he has. And because this has gone off twice tonight, that's validation for me. I really think it's his wife pushing it. Honestly, I do.
Do you think Donald Trump set out to be a cult leader, or did it simply transpire on its own because of his style and ideology?
I think Donald Trump got to the place of running the cult of Trump through his upbringing, through his father.
Latest Justice Department's filings had us wondering here, a year after leaving office, just how many documents marked classified did former President Trump have at Mar-a-Lago? So we counted by the numbers. Our count starts in January when the National Archives received 184 classified documents, adding up to more than 700 pages of secret government information. Now in June, 38 more documents marked classified, filling 13 boxes, were turned over by Mr. Trump's legal team. Now we've learned that at least 72 of these first documents were marked confidential, at least 108 secret, and at least 32 were top secret. Now, this 36-page filing from the Justice Department also reveals a written assurance from Mr. Trump's custodian of records that all classified materials had been turned over at that point. But then, earlier this month, over 100 more documents with confidential markings were seized in the FBI raid. So that's more than 321 documents in total. And this recent filing from the Department of Justice.
It's crazy because I have seen some of these cult members, and we've had some of them on the channel, and we've had some in the group. And it's like, no matter what you say to them, you can tell them that there's proof of this, that he's sexually assaulted there's women. He lost a civil case. Okay, so that's proof, right? And then you can show them proof of all these things. You can show them numbers, and no matter what they say, no matter what they see about it, they make excuses for him, and they don't see that he's bad. And it's like, come on, people. How much does somebody have to do? That's like the women. How many women have to come forward before there's enough pattern? How many times has he said things against women? There's a pattern here. People just have to open their eyes. No one is God but God, the consciousness. So I don't know. I have a hard time understanding it because I don't see things that way. When you have a strong mind, you can't be programmed in that way. I'm not meant to be programmed in that way. I'm very open-minded to other things. And again, I know that there's other people out there that do bad things, but it's like there's so much baggage and everybody puts him on this pedestal, and I just wanted people to see it.
States that in just a matter of hours, the FBI recovered twice as many documents with classification markings as the, quote, diligent search that the former president's counsel and other representatives had weeks to perform.
Insiders are warning Americans about the dangers of a second Trump term. In a new foreword to his book, former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton writes, quote, nothing in politics is inevitable, and facts, even now, can shape politics. Facts are blunt instruments, and a mountain of facts demonstrates that Trump is unfit to be president. Former UN Ambassador John Bolton joins us here at the table. Mr. Ambassador, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
So, you want to take that first one? Because I know she's been chomping.
I read your op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that you have your book is out again in paperback, right? And you refresh the foreword, and there's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal from, I believe, January 31st. And then I saw Donald Trump last night, and I feel like there's some synergy here. I want to play for you what Donald Trump said last night in Conway, South Carolina about NATO.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
The them is Russia that he is talking about. You write in the Wall Street Journal that Mr. Trump will act on his desire to withdraw from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. He came precariously close in 2018. The Supreme Court has never ruled authoritatively whether the president can abrogate Senate-ratified treaties, but presidents have regularly done so. Congress, at the end of last year, passed a bill to say presidents can't just withdraw from NATO, but you hear that from Donald Trump. You wrote these words that I'm reading in January.
Right. Look, that statute that you mentioned is almost certainly unconstitutional. I've been with presidents withdrawing from treaties.
And he is an ex-Trump advisor, so.
The Senate has no role in it. And I just think people need to take Donald Trump very seriously. Too many people don't. Supporters of Trump and even opponents of Trump, when he says he wants to get out of NATO, I think it's a very real threat. And
January 6th, you know, Nikki Haley, you know, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people.
Middle East, how did that work out, right? But they all thought that Bush might win. Jeb, remember Jeb? He used the word Jeb. He didn't use the word Bush. I said, you mean he's ashamed of the last name? And then they immediately started using the name Bush. Never forget it.
So he confused George W. Bush and Jeb Bush.
Anonymous, gutless.
Apparently he can't say the word anonymous.
They sacrifice every day for the furniture and future of their children. Jim Apple. Mike Pounds. I know words. I have the best words. Yosemite.
And I put this here to show you guys, like, he's cognitively declining, and there's more about that. I didn't go totally into this. I mean, you can watch the guy and see for yourself. Like, I mean, comparing the economy to Tic Tacs and a bunch of other stuff. Like,
he says Yosemites instead of Yosemite. Okay, that's funny.
Island.
Deliberately surrendered our border to vicious coyotes and drug smugglers. I mean, these drug smugglers, the smuggler.
I find it awkward. I find it embarrassing. He's really in the early stages of some kind of senile dementia.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings.
It's more than awkward and embarrassing. It's actually dangerous. Having someone with his mental state, to me, it's terrifying.
She speaks in rhyme.
In rhyme? What do you?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there, because that's what buses do. It's weird.
he can't finish a sentence.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
The man doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where the exit is. He's not sure how to get through a speech.
Mr. President, you need to sign it.
Old, outdated, retired, elderly, aging, senile, dementia, slow, confused, idiot, ignorant, sleepy, gaff, bumbling, bad, terrible, disappointing, joke, profanity.
Being corrupt is bad. Being corrupt and senile is even.
Donald Trump was found guilty of felony charges for his role in covering up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
WSJ's courts reporter Corinne Ramey watched it all unfold inside the courtroom. She walks us through key moments from the trial and explains what.
You notice how he always says everything rigged, everything's fake? Okay, Donald, we have how much evidence against you? Everything is not going to be fake and rigged. Come on. We can't make this up if we tried.
What the verdict means for Trump. At the center of the charges against Trump were dozens of documents, including 11 checks, 11 invoices, and 12 entries in Trump's general ledger. This was ultimately not a trial about an affair. It was a trial about business documents and a cover-up, right? Absolutely. Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. Falsifying business records in New York is a misdemeanor, but here it's a felony because prosecutors had to show that Trump was seeking to commit or conceal a second crime.
What's funny is he's always talking about other conspiracies, and here he is trying to commit a conspiracy on his own. And this is not the only hush money he's done. And no telling what he paid for before this to hide before this came out of the campaign. I mean, makes you just wonder.
Prosecutors argued that the reason Trump falsified business records was to cover up a conspiracy to illegally promote his election to the presidency. A conspiracy, they said, that involved Trump, his fixer Michael Cohen, and the publisher of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, who worked together to catch and kill stories damaging to Trump's campaign, like the story about an alleged affair with porn star Stormy Daniels, who Cohen paid $130,000 to silence in the final days of the 2016 campaign. Trump has denied the affair.
Who else has he paid off?
The prosecution kicked things off by calling Pecker to the stand to outline the conspiracy.
They establish not only is there a conspiracy, but there's a specific moment when this supposedly begins. So they have this meeting. Then here we have Pecker talking about how he is Trump's eyes and ears. Then here we have sort of him defining the catch and kill scheme. He says, I'd notify Michael Cohen, and then he would be able to have them kill in another magazine or have them not be published, or somebody would have to purchase them.
Pecker also testified that he helped buy and kill 2 stories that could be damaging to Trump in order to help Trump's campaign. After establishing the conspiracy, prosecutors called Hope Hicks, Trump's former communications director, and they took jurors back to the weeks before the 2016 election.
Hope Hicks was...
That's 3 times. You guys have watched my videos, I don't know how many times, and have you ever seen it go off that much? This is to validate him doing the right thing, in my opinion, and I really think it's his wife. I can't help but think that, because something's been pushing me. Something's been pushing me. Everybody gets pissed off in the group. I'm not trying to go off on a rant here, saying it's politics. I'm being taken to the dark side of politics. No, but people care about numbers because they're not just listening to me about the horrible person he is. So I have to throw out the numbers to show them that they're mistaken on things, which I'll show you guys that they are here in a minute. That's the 3rd time this thing has went off. It doesn't even go off like that in cases. Just saying. That's crazy. It's nuts.
Was important because she talked about how the campaign was in crisis mode in responding to the Access Hollywood tape.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the pussy.
She explained to the jury why the hush money payment was really responding to this crisis within the campaign and was not made for purposes of Melania or Trump's family.
Then the prosecution called porn star Stormy Daniels.
Were you expecting Stormy Daniels to take the stand? This was a real unknown going into the trial. We didn't know if Stormy would take the stand. In some ways, she's tangential to the case. Her testimony absolutely mattered. What didn't matter was whether that 2006 alleged sexual encounter happened. Like, it doesn't matter if Trump and Stormy had sex. What matters is that Stormy was trying to sell her story. And I think when she was on the stand, jurors saw what that story looked like.
Throughout the trial, the jury also heard about Trump as a businessman, from former staffers and also from books he wrote.
He writes, as I said before, I always sign my checks so I know where my money's going.
That helped establish a pattern to show that Trump was a micromanager of his business dealings. Finally, the prosecution called its star witness.
Michael Cohen is an extremely flawed witness. How did the prosecution set him up so that he was ultimately believable to the jury?
Well, before Michael Cohen even walked in that room, I think those jurors felt like they already had met Michael Cohen. And they had established, before he even got on the stand, why all of what Cohen said made sense.
The Queen's second son, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, who recently stepped back from his public duties amid allegations he had sex with a 17-year-old girl who was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein.
Knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth. And I know that's me.
In a new interview that aired on BBC Monday night, Virginia Giuffre, now in her 30s, said she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew. He denies the allegations.
I implore the people in the UK to stand up beside me, to help me fight this fight, to not accept this as being okay. This is not...
Asked about the prince.
And this is a pattern of you know, people are wondering probably what's Prince Andrew have to do with. This is a pattern of Trump being involved with these people, with these trafficking people, with these people involved in these rings and whatnot. This is proving that Trump is involved with it. He said, I don't know Prince Andrew, but yet here there are pictures of him with Prince Andrew. He cannot tell the truth.
I don't know Prince Andrew, but it's a tough story. It's a very tough story. I don't know him, no.
But after those comments, photos of Trump were being circulated online, including some showing Trump and his then-girlfriend Melania with the prince and Epstein at the same Mar-a-Lago event almost 20 years ago. And these photos from the Duke of York's Twitter page show Trump and the prince together in June of this year.
Something last week that didn't get much attention. He decided to undo workplace protections for women that Obama had signed as an executive order back in 2014. Now, Obama signed the 2014 Fair Pay and Safe Workplace Order after a Government Accountability Office investigation 4 years earlier found companies with workplace violations were being awarded millions in federal contracts.
Now, isn't this ironic? Does anybody think that he did this to benefit himself? Because he had sexual harassment. He had sexual harassment accusations, and so now he's taking away women's protective or being protected from sexual abuse accusations and sexual harassment accusations. Does anybody find that kind of odd? Is that to benefit him so that if he gets caught, nothing's going to happen to him? Like, why would you overturn a bill like that? That's so weird to me.
Now, Trump's order undoes paycheck transparency, which, by the way, affects everyone, not just women, and a ban on forced arbitration clauses for sexual harassment, sexual assault, or discrimination claims, which helped women.
I bet you it's to benefit himself in case anything comes up. I bet you. See, that's what I'm saying. He only does things to benefit himself.
Women workers remain safe on the job. So we all know what paycheck transparency is. That's important because if you are getting screwed by your employer pay-wise based on discriminatory practices, well, it gives you information necessary to fight it. When it comes to the issue of arbitration, keep in mind that this is the same thing that protected Fox News for so long. Arbitration clauses will settle cases involving sexual assault or sexual harassment out of court, so it won't be public.
Is making a strong response today to a story about the candidate and his ex-wife. The Daily Beast website says Ivana Trump once used the term rape in a court deposition to describe a sexual encounter with Trump.
Now, Trump denies the allegation. Earlier today, CBS This Morning spoke with Tim Mack. He's the author of the Daily Beast article who said Trump's attorney.
Now, if we are building up a criminal profile here, are you more likely to believe this? And maybe she was scared to really say it because it kept saying, no, your wife can't, or your husband can't rape you. Think about that. Her husband's probably telling her that. He probably threatened her. Criminal profile, there's a pattern here.
They threatened him if he ran with the story.
Well, I think it was important to look into, especially since Donald Trump launched his presidential campaign, making insults about Mexican immigrants, saying that they were, quote, rapists. So it was a little bit relevant to look into his past and see exactly
Pot calling kettle black.
What might have been said about him on that topic, that the allegation was not made in a criminal sense like you mentioned, but then it descended into insults and threats, threats of lawsuits, telling me to tread lightly and to say that whatever lawsuits that they might file against me would be disgusting. It devolved pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did it take a turn, Tim, and you reached out to the campaign and you heard back from a lawyer. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, that surprised me a lot. I've dealt with a lot of campaigns. Very rarely does it get this acrimonious and so quickly. I've never reached out to a campaign looking for comment on a story and heard back from a lawyer, but there's nothing typical about the Trump campaign, it appears. Well, I think Trump should be held accountable for this allegation. He should be asked pretty directly what he thinks of it and how he would like to respond. I think also that Trump's lawyer has represented him on a number of occasions in front of the news media, so it's very obvious that Trump has had no problem with Michael Cohen, his special counsel, speaking on his behalf in the past.
And we now have a statement from Ivana Trump. It reads, I have recently read some comments attributed to me from nearly 30 years ago at a time of very high tension during my divorce from...
I really think she's the one that's been working on the bear. It's either her or my guides or someone, but there's someone that's been very pushy about all of this.
Donald, the story to you, because there are certainly a lot of questions now, but in response to Tim Mack, Trump's lawyer said you cannot rape your spouse, and there's very clear case law. Do you think that Trump's association with those comments will bring him down at all in the polls?
I think that the comments made by his lawyer in the past couple of days might end up being more damaging than whatever happened with his wife at the time, Ivana Trump, although...
Look how he degrades regular people, and he's a narcissist, and narcissists can sometimes become abusive. I couldn't find, I mean, I didn't really look for that, but I've heard some stories. I don't want to say what they are because I don't know if it's true, but narcissists are usually abusive, and more than likely she was scared and he made her change her mind.
Those years ago, especially because even back then, she sort of recanted her description of what happened and said it was just an uncomfortable encounter and it wasn't what she was used to with Donald Trump. And so there's enough of a gray area there that I think voters are going to make up their mind.
Hides evidence. Criminals hide evidence.
Now, I don't know. I swear I had the video of what he was supposed to say versus what he said. He went against an off script. I swear I screen recorded that, but I was up really late doing it. But he was supposed to tell everybody to go home and be peaceful. And you can find that on YouTube if you want to. I don't know if I put it on here. I can't remember.
Not honest people. So, over the next 10 days, we get to see the machines that are crooked, the ballots that are fraudulent, and if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So, let's have trial by combat.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by
trial by combat. Okay.
By emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing.
Here he goes. Fake and fraud, everything.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen.
Does anybody think that's like a programming thing, trying to get everybody to believe that everything's fake and fraudulent?
And you don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Our country has been under siege for a long time. It is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on.
Trump is a sore loser, and anytime he loses, he will do this. So get ready for him to try to get people to attack if he's found guilty and put in, or he's already been found guilty, put in jail, or have anything kind of done to him, or if he loses, say he makes it. I don't know. I could be completely wrong and he does make it. I don't know. But say he loses, be prepared because this is what he does. This is a pattern, another pattern. He's a narcissist. He can't lose.
Our brave senators and congressmen and women.
And he told him he'd go with him and he didn't.
We'll pause.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
There wasn't anything you said.
And there was I cannot believe this. There was victims that night. Just saying, that has to be touched. Nobody knows this is not a regular rim pop bear. You have to touch it. Nobody's hidden anything. 5 times now. 5 times that's went off. And pay attention to when it's going off. Pay attention to the stories of when it goes off. I'm absolutely blown away right now. Thank you, Spirit, for validating this is what I was supposed to do.
Stop us!
been done under the name of just following order.
Nobody was killed on January 6th.
But in fact, 4 of his own supporters died that day. Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran and one of Trump's supporters, was shot by the police while trying to force her way into the chambers of the House of Representatives. Roseanne Boyland, a Georgia woman, was trampled in the crush of her fellow rioters. Kevin D. Greeson died of a heart attack. And Benjamin Phillips, the founder of a pro-Trump website called Trumpero, died of a stroke. 4 cops who responded to the riot killed themselves in the following weeks and months.
Nobody was killed on January 6th.
Now we're going to hear it from the rioters themselves. Without objection, I include in the record a video presentation.
So you can we were invited by the President of the United States!
What really made me want...
Holy crap. That is the most this has ever gone off. 6 times. They are wanting people to pay attention to these specific parts.
to come was the fact that, you know, I had supported Trump all that time. I did believe, you know, that the election was being stolen. And Trump asked us to come.
He personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask of me, I'll do it.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Did you recall President Trump mentioning going to the Capitol during his speech?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of my disappointments. He said he was going to go and go with us, that he was going to be there.
I know why I was there, and that's because he called me there and he laid out what is happening in our government. He laid it out.
But I remember Donald Trump telling people to be there, right? I mean, to support.
So you mentioned that the president asked you. Do you remember a specific message?
Basically, yeah, he asked for us to come to D.C., that big things are going to happen.
What got me interested, he said, I have something very important on January 6th or something like that, is what got me interested to be there.
You know, Trump is on 2 things. He asked me for my vote, and he asked me to come.
That was supposed to he asked me to come down, come there. So I'm blown away by this thing going off. It doesn't even go off this much in readings. There are things here that Spirit's wanting you to see that's important. It's either Ivana or Spirit in general. Like, they are wanting people to take notice of this. This doesn't even go off like this in readings. It doesn't go off randomly like this. The last time it went off was right when I text Steven and there was something going on with him. And the time that I finished Kamala's download. So I hope I say her name right. Sometimes I feel like I say it right. Sometimes I feel like I say it wrong. We've only got a couple more things. Now we're going to start getting into some fact checking stuff. Okay. Because I know that that's really important to people. If you still care about the guy or want to follow the guy after this because of his policies or things you think he's done or the economy or whatever, then I urge you to stick around and see this because I'm going to fact check that stuff. And this right here is about the border bill that he killed. So how he's talking about the immigrants, they're so bad, blah, blah, blah. Check this out. This was actually sent to me right when I started recording this today.
I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election. It's the single biggest issue during the election. Don't resolve this. We'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it. My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this.
I know you're not trying to zing your...
So, just saying, everybody that was telling me, oh, we're worried about the border, blah, blah, blah. guess what? He wanted to use it himself in his own campaign, or use it. He's going to use the same bill, approve it next year so that he could look like the hero, because he's a narcissist. And he could not handle that the Democrats brought up a bill that was going to help with the border, something that he failed to do. He might have done a little bit, but failed to do. And so he didn't want them to do it. So basically, again, he's about himself. So he wants to complain about everybody at the border, but now it's himself, himself, himself. He doesn't care about you, I, or anybody else. And that should prove it right there. He only cares about being elected and being the hero. Okay. Now I'm going to show you, again, the economy, the factual information, and what this is Biden versus Trump. But then also like what's coming up and what Trump wants to do versus what Biden wants to do. That was when Biden was still like in the race. I'm imagining it's very similar. They seem to have very similar ideas on what they want to do. Like, I think she wants to continue some of the stuff. So I want you guys to pay attention. There's some stuff mentioned in here. There's the tax that Trump's trying to do that's going to cost $3,900 a month, or $3,900 extra dollars a year for people or something like that. There is actual numbers here that are fact-checking Donald, and I'm putting that at the front to show you guys because nobody wanted to listen to me. And again, this is not to get political, but this is the actual facts. So hopefully the Trumpers that are saying, oh my God, he's going to save us. Oh my God, he did so much. Oh wow, the economy was up during him and down, the economy was up during him and down during Biden. Crime was down during him and up during Biden. Like, they have it backwards. And I want to show that, because they've been arguing with me, telling me I'm misinformed. So I hope to God that the people that left the group watch this and see the validation from Spirit that has come through in this. Then they will understand why I was being pushed. It's because they want him to be exposed. Spirit wants him to be exposed because he's dangerous. There's been a reason you guys know I don't push on things. You know I don't push on things unless I have to push on things. I've never been political before. I've never talked about him before. Why? Why now? Why is it so important? Think about that. I'm begging you to think about that. Why am I being pushed so hard? You've never seen me be, and after I post this, I'm going to have to let it go, because it's all the evidence that I could possibly show you that the guy doesn't need to be in this position. He never should have been in the first place. But for all those people that are okay, so he's sexual assault, he incited a riot, he's made broken promises, he's done everything that we've talked about here, but yet his policies are good, he's going to save us. This is what you need to see. And the reason I left it till the end is because I didn't want it to be political. I wanted it to be about his crimes. I wanted to build up to this. So I hope that people will still be here to watch this. And I hope that you guys will share with people that you find this information informative. Anybody can look it up. I went down a rabbit hole. Come on. If we had a mountain of evidence like this against anybody else, what would he be saying right now? Just take it out of the fact that it's him and look at it as a normal person. You and I, me or you, we would not be walking around right now. We'd be in jail somewhere for sure.
False claims about the economy and what he accomplished during his time in office. Joining us now with a fact check, former Treasury official, Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner. Steve, at the Southwest Wall, great to see you. Let's dive right in. First up, here is what Donald Trump said yesterday about the economy during his administration.
We had the strongest economy in history. There's never been a country that had an economy like us. I gave Harris and Biden an economic miracle, and they quickly turned it into an economic nightmare.
See, this is an oft-repeated claim by Donald Trump that he had the strongest economy of all time, and now he's adding he handed Joe Biden an economic miracle. What's the truth about that?
Not only did he not have the strongest economy of all time, he didn't even have the strongest economy of the last two presidents, himself and Joe Biden. And so let's take a look at some of the facts here. First, the best measure of an economy is its growth rate, GDP growth rate. And so when you compare the two, and I have adjusted out COVID in fairness to both presidents, although you see it doesn't actually change the picture, Trump grew his economy at a rate of about 2.6% a year, which is actually not a bad rate, and that excludes COVID. Biden grew his economy, has grown so far his economy at 3.5% a year. If you take out the effects of COVID, the disparity is even greater. So I've done this as honestly as I can do, and no matter how you do it, it doesn't come out in Trump's favor, even against Biden, let alone against 5,000 years of other economies around the world. Secondly, you can look at jobs. That's a very important thing in an economy, obviously, to Americans. And again, I've adjusted out the effects of COVID. 182,000 jobs on average a month created by Trump. 271,000 jobs on average created by Biden. Again, if you take out COVID, the disparity is far greater. So that is one of his most preposterous claims.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie, and he has made that point. We were cooking along, and then COVID came, and that's not my fault. We can talk about that more, of how he handled COVID. But even adjusted for COVID, you're saying...
See, so everybody else is misinformed. I'm not misinformed. I had literally people leave the group because I apparently don't know what I'm talking about, which is fine. Let them go. Whatever. Hopefully one day they wake up, they're welcome back anytime they want to come back.
Joe Biden has had the better economy. All right, let's move on to energy. This is former President Trump talking yesterday about American oil production and energy independence.
We were energy independent 4 years ago. Think of it. Today we're getting energy from Venezuela in the form of tar.
Steve, what do the numbers show?
Well, first of all, we were never energy independent under Donald Trump. In fact, we really haven't been energy independent going back until sometime before 1950. You can see that the amount of oil imports that we had during Trump did in fact decline. This is part of a long progression that goes back to the mid-2000s. It's nothing that he particularly did. It continued under Biden, and lo and behold, the first time we have been energy independent as it applies to oil was in 2023 under Biden's presidency, when we actually exported a bit more oil than we imported. Now, Trump is hung up on Venezuela. I'm not exactly sure why. He usually likes dictators. In this case, he seems to not like it as much. It is a fact, as Trump said, that Venezuelan oil is bad oil. It's very heavy. It's very polluting. But look what happened to Venezuelan oil imports over the last 7.5 years. Under Trump, we averaged 10.3 million barrels of Venezuelan oil a day coming into this country. Under Biden, we're down to 1.7 million barrels a day of Venezuelan oil. So the idea that somehow Biden is the one who brought in all this Venezuelan oil is absolutely directly contradicted by the numbers.
As is often the case, exactly the opposite is true of what Donald Trump says. In fact, we are not running on Venezuelan tar. Okay, let's talk about migrant crime. Donald Trump yesterday in North Carolina went on a tangent about what he claims is a surge in migrant crime. Here's what he said.
They all said I was wrong when I said that migrant crime will reach epidemic proportions. And now it's much worse than that. It's a lot worse than epidemic proportions. It's beyond control. We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime. And I think it's going to end up being the worst category of all.
All right, Steve, what does the data show?
Well, you know, it was supposed to be an economic speech, but he can't help himself, and he has to get off into things like migrants and immigration and the border and crime and all that kind of stuff. But once again, the facts are not quite what he said. First, let's just talk about crime in general. He likes to think the country's in the middle of some crime wave. That is actually not true. Violent crime per 100,000 people has dropped 26% under Joe Biden, from an average of 398 per 100,000 people down to 294. What is even more amazing, and in fact ended Trump's administration slightly higher than when it began, or certainly at best most.
That's what energy does. When you have a lot of violence and stuff, you have people, you know, he's preaching this hate, attack. It's showing right here. Violent crime was up during Trump's term, and it's gone down in Biden's. Everything's gotten better with Biden's. It's taken time, but it's not a damn wand. But everything he's speaking to you guys, think the opposite.
Favorably, you can't see any improvement under Trump's administration. All the improvement has been under the Biden.
And I need to say, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. What's right is right. What's truth is truth, period. That's how I look at it. I'm not in some fairy tale land.
Administration. Now, there's the fallacy of migrant crime. If you read the New York Post, you'd think, of course, all crime was committed by migrants. But in fact, and we've talked about this, I think, before, but it's really quite dramatic. If you break crime down between native-born Americans, documented immigrants, and undocumented immigrants, you can see that native-born American crime rate is actually higher than it is for documented immigrants and way higher than it is for undocumented immigrants. That's true whether you look at violent crime, whether you look at property crime, when you look at drug violations. The fact is, immigrants actually commit fewer crimes than Americans. And for the undocumented immigrants, it's not totally surprising. They don't want to get sent back to wherever they came from, so they tend to behave themselves better than a lot of Americans and a lot of documented immigrants. So this is a complete fiction.
I mean, let's face it, we have a lot of violence right here. A lot of Native people, and that there's proof right there in the numbers
that Donald Trump has created.
And Steve, right on cue, the New York Post this morning on its cover has an 11-year-old Venezuelan child in handcuffs, talking about the problem you just outlined. Great charts, telling the truth as always with data, Steve. Thanks so much. And before the inflation number yesterday that came down 2.9% year over year, what does it mean for the economy?
Yeah, this was really good news, and even Trump actually, I think, briefly acknowledged it yesterday. It's the lowest inflation rate we've had since 2021. It's broken below 3%. It's getting close to the Fed's target of 2%. That combined with some suggestions that consumers are starting to pull back, that the economy is starting to weaken a little bit, has pretty much solidified a rate cut by the Fed in September, and that's good news for homeowners, it's good news for borrowers, it's good news for generally getting the economy going a little bit faster, and of course politically it's good news for the Harris ticket.
All right, Steve Ratner, thanks so much. So important to stop and get the data from Steve as we punch candidates.
See? Inflation is down. It's down, guys. Down below 3%. Is that perfect? No. But it's lower than it was under Trump. Where is the proof that he could save us from anything? That's what I want to know. The numbers don't back it up. His personality doesn't back it up. His crimes don't back it up. Pattern.
The Trump presidency. Part 1. As Donald Trump runs for a second term, it's important to revisit his presidential record and remember his administration's most notable milestones, starting with his economic performance. Despite promising to bring back manufacturing jobs, the U.S. lost 154,000 factory jobs during Trump's tenure, and the share of private sector employees working in manufacturing fell below 10% for the first time since the government started tracking the data in 1939. In fact, Trump had the worst jobs record of any president on record, with more than 3 million jobs lost.
See?
Even prior to the pandemic, job growth under Trump ran about 3%.
And people tell me that we need to wake up. I think they need to wake up. Look, like this is what I've been talking about. Become informed and do your research. Don't just throw off opinions.
Less than
That doesn't mean that everything's perfect. Okay, I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be corruption somewhere, someplace, somehow. But come on.
under Barack Obama. Joe Biden's presidency saw an increase of 6 million jobs, and the economy is nearly 10% larger under Biden than at Trump's pre-pandemic peak. Before COVID, average incomes had fallen under Trump by over $1,000 per household. For those earning less than $250,000 a year, their income was greater in 2016 during Obama's last year in office than in 2019 under Trump. Under Biden, wage gains have finally exceeded that of inflation, due in large part to the administration's pro-labor policies. The Trump administration, however, pursued policies that only benefited the wealthy and corporations, like the massive Trump tax cuts, which rolled back the taxes of billionaires to the 1910s, so that they paid less than school teachers, factory workers, and retirees. Trump also reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, and he forgave a significant portion of unpaid taxes that multinationals had been hiding in tax shelters since the 1980s. As a result, the tax burden to fund the government shifted from companies to the working class, who are now responsible for 86% of federal revenue. This giveaway to the wealthiest Americans added $2.3 trillion to the national debt, creating more debt than any non-wartime president in U.S. history. Trump's tax cuts cost
Dun, 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 dun. There's your special person that everybody loves so much.
the U.S. government more than Biden's infrastructure bill, Inflation Reduction Act, American Rescue Plan, CHIPS, PACT, student debt forgiveness, and funding the IRS combined. To be continued in part 2.
A particularly dismal month for investors.
All three major U.S. indexes posted their first monthly loss since the beginning of the pandemic in March. And the SIBO Volatility Index, often used to gauge the market's fear, spiked above 30 for the first time since mid-July.
I think this near-term period where we have not only COVID winter, but significant policy uncertainty about the United States, when you can't be certain who will be the president of the United States, what party will be in control, then you're going to have some elevated volatility.
The market typically slows a little leading up to an election and reacts more positively in the short term when a Republican president is elected.
The stock market and the political environment clearly are closely interrelated, and the stock market.
Buy and sell stocks anytime.
U.S. markets have surged during Biden's presidency. The S&P 500 up about 40% as we settle into its fourth year. Now we want to know, how does it compare to stocks?
Stocks have even gone up, which is totally opposite of what Trump has said.
Under former President Trump, and how should investors consider this heading into the 2024 election? Joining us now on this is Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman. Rick, latest issue.
Guys.
Thank you. Bidenomics, go. Where are we?
Yeah, the stock market is one of the stats I track for the Yahoo Finance Bidenomics report card. How is Biden doing on the economy compared with prior presidents going all the way back to Jimmy Carter in the 1970s? And there's been an interesting flip in the last month or two as we've had this going on what's like a 6-month stock rally here. So for most of Biden's presidency, when you compared the S&P 500 under Trump with the S&P under Biden, the stock market was doing better under Trump. But now that we're in the fourth year of each president's term, if you compare the stock market under Biden with Trump at the same point in his presidency, Biden is blowing Trump away at this point. S&P 500 up about 40% since Biden took office. And at this point in Trump's presidency, the S&P 500 was only up about 13%. So 40% under Biden, only 13% under Trump. And there's a big reason. Stocks were doing well under Trump until the COVID pandemic erupted in February and March of 2020. So that was basically 4 years ago. We got a big downturn in the market. We had a deep but short recession. And then stocks recovered under Trump. But if stocks just stay flat for the rest of Biden's term, he will still beat Trump on the stock market. Does this matter? Well, I'll tell you who it matters to. It matters to Donald Trump, because he has said more than once. He said in 2020, well, if you elect Joe Biden, the stock market's going to crash. It did not crash. And then Trump even recently has said, well, the only reason stocks are going up is because of me, because investors are happy that I'm going to be the Republican presidential nominee and probably be president again. So therefore, investors are happy about the prospect of a second Trump economy. I don't buy that. I don't think many people do.
Taxes. I think there's no question we're going to have a very pro-American energy policy. We're going to head back to being energy independent again. We're going to drill for oil. We're going to use our clean coal. We're going to use our natural gas to lessen the impact that countries like Iran and Russia and China have over the world economy. And then finally,
demand for energy has never been higher, and a variety of new technologies have emerged to meet it. One such technology is known as fracking, or hydraulic fracturing, which is used in onshore drilling to access natural gas. Fracking has raised a number of environmental concerns that must be addressed. This article explores the environmental impacts of fracking in onshore drilling, so readers can make an informed decision about its use. Fracking and onshore drilling. Fracking in onshore drilling has a detrimental effect on the ecology, which cannot be disregarded. Hydraulic fracturing methods used for oil and gas extraction can have catastrophic effects on nearby ecosystems and communities. The negative effects of fracking can be considerable and long-lasting, ranging from air pollution and water contamination to habitat destruction and increased seismic activity. Research has really revealed that fracking operations have the potential to emit hazardous chemicals and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, having significant negative effects on both human health and the environment. It is obvious that the environmental effects of fracking during onshore drilling are a serious problem that needs to be addressed right away.
You know, we want to get
President Trump talking yesterday.
Hold on. Not my more drilling. That's why I kind of like Biden and Harris. They want I know that we don't all want electric vehicles and things like that. I'm sure that they'll find something that's better than even that. but it's better than killing our environment. Like, we need to protect our ecosystem and our environment. You guys want more earthquakes? Because I sure don't. But that's what he wants to do, is drill, drill, drill.
And finally,
demand for energy has never
been to get Americans back to work. We want policies that could actually help people get back into jobs, and not just jobs, but jobs that pay well.
It'd be different if the president wins re-election.
Yeah, I mean, Steve left out the biggest tax increase that Donald Trump is proposing. In fact, it's the only very explicitly worked out part of his platform that I'm aware of, which is a 10% tax on all imports and a 60% tax on everything coming from China. I was not a fan of the latest round of tariffs that President Biden proposed. But let's put some perspective on them. They were on $18 billion of imports. We import $4 trillion worth of stuff. So you're talking about 200 times the scope of what the recent Biden tariffs were. For a typical family, you're talking an extra $1,700 of costs. And then you add that to the other inflationary parts of the agenda. You have advisors to President Trump saying that he would fire Jay Powell within the first 100 days. That would set up a massive amount of uncertainty, court cases, and the like.
So you guys can go ahead and look and see what this would cause. The economists that I read, that I listened to, do not agree that taxing all those imports like that, just like this guy is saying, it's not the way to do it. It's going to put us in more debt. I don't know if anybody wants any more freaking taxes, but
tweets at him
so much, and with high interest rates and high home prices.
Okay, so this is like the economy under Biden and Trump. So keep in mind that this isn't including 2025, that people need to research and look at. I'm telling you, you need to do that. If you haven't already, please check it out, because it will totally help you understand things. And we now have Harris, not Biden, but I'm thinking she's wanting to continue, so that's why I kept it.
The economy is paramount to voters when it comes to choosing the next president. I'm John Dorman, and I'm a senior politics reporter at Business Insider. Here's how the U.S. economy will look like under a Biden or a Trump presidency. Education is one of the most critical issues of this election, especially with younger voters. One of the issues that both candidates have brought up is reform in higher education overall. Student loan debt has broad implications for the American economy, whether it comes to delaying buying a home or not being able to afford buying a car. It really could have major implications on the life choices of millions of Americans. So even if you aren't particularly affected by student loan debt relief, higher education overall, especially for young generations, this is going to be a continued issue with education costs continuing to rise. Should President Joe Biden be reelected, he would continue to find ways to try to lower costs for students when paying back student loans. Whereas for former President Donald Trump, he's given no indication that that's something that would be a priority of his. President Joe Biden has been a firm supporter of broader student loan debt relief. It's an issue that he ran on in 2020.
Middle class folks earn under 125 grand, you get up to $10,000 knocked off the debt, and if you earn under 125 grand, you receive a Pell Grant, you get a $20,000 knocked off.
And it was an issue that brought in a lot of younger voters to his campaign, but it has hit a lot of snags. While he has implemented about $153 billion of relief for students, especially those that were impacted by the closure of for-profit universities, there have been a lot of court challenges. Former President Donald Trump and Republicans student loan debt relief.
President Biden is not allowed to wipe out hundreds and hundreds of billions, probably trillions of dollars in student loan debt.
And should he be back in the White House, is something that he wouldn't implement. When it comes to healthcare, we should consider abortion.
Wait, so he doesn't care about our children's school? They're wanting to ban books, FYI.
Gender-affirming healthcare and drug prices. Should President Joe Biden be reelected, he would continue to implement the firm mechanics of the Affordable Care Act, where with former President Donald Trump, he has been an opponent of the Affordable Care Act.
We're going to repeal it, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to get you great health care at a fraction.
Yeah, but he never did that before. Okay. Think about all the promises he's made that he hasn't followed through on. Think about all the lies he's giving. Just think the opposite of whatever he says.
Action of the course.
And he also has been a candidate who hasn't really focused particularly on pharmaceutical drugs, something that the Biden administration has firmly been a supporter of negotiating.
If he succeeds and Obamacare is overturned, 20 million lose coverage, 100 million lose the coverage for pre-existing conditions. Pregnancy, once again, becomes a pre-existing condition. Your kids won't be able to stay in your plan until they're 26.
President Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act lowered the cost of insulin to $35 a month, and his administration is committed to negotiating drug prices.
I don't know about you guys, but my mom as a diabetic, I think she's supposed to take insulin. I don't know if she actually does what she's supposed to do, but I think that also in 2025, they're wanting to end Medicare and end Social Security. So that's something to think about as well. And although he only overturned Roe v. Wade, because I hear this a lot and it goes down to a state level, in 2025, it states they want to do it. They want to do it everywhere. Completely. So consider that. And there are people that have tubal pregnancies and emergencies and things like that that also need it. It's not just people that don't want to have babies. People have to understand my choice, my body. But even people that are against that, there's still, it should be case by case and not somebody that's coming back again and again. I get that, but still, it's free will, it's free choice, and I believe in soul contracts, so I see it a different way. But there's emergency here. The mortality rate of women has gone up, and you can look that up yourself.
With drug companies, whereas the former President Donald Trump, it's slightly unclear how he would approach lowering the cost of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for seniors in this election. Abortion is a defining issue for the presidential campaigns.
And I almost put that in here, but I didn't. It was a girl that was speaking out, a woman that was speaking out at the DNC, and she was talking about how her stepdad got her pregnant at 12. Yeah, and can she imagine not having the choice of having your parents' child? So that's also something to think about as well. There's other victims out there. I'm sure that Trump has had many himself. I think that he wanted actually one of his wives to do that with one of his kids. And that's just what I've heard. I didn't look it up to see if I could find facts. If you can find facts on that, great. But looking at how he is, just saying.
President Joe Biden, he's running as a pro-choice candidate. He is committed to restoring Roe versus Wade, and he's railed against former President Donald Trump over the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade.
A terrible, extreme decision, in my view, upending lives and impacting on the health and safety of millions of women.
Former President Donald Trump, he installed the justices that were able to overturn Roe versus Wade, and he's been a firm supporter of that decision. However, he does say that he won't support a national abortion ban, which is something that the Biden administration questions.
The choice is clear. We either elect federal senators and representatives who will codify Roe, or Republicans who will elect the House and Senate who will try to ban abortions nationwide.
When it comes to gender-affirming healthcare, President Biden does support gender-affirming care overall, while former President Donald Trump doesn't support federal funding of gender-affirming care.
Even when U.S. women's national team forward...
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump stand on the issue of taxes. Biden's tax plans have been focused on delivering relief for middle-class taxpayers, whereas former President Donald Trump's plans have been more focused on higher-income earners.
We passed the largest tax cuts in the history of our country. The Democrats want to raise your taxes. Tell me about that.
With inflation still being a major issue, the plans for both of these candidates could have major implications in terms of filing taxes, but just in terms of everyday costs that are passed on. But overall, the picture for both candidates is still a little uncertain. Here's where Biden and Trump stand on the issue of labor. President Joe Biden has been a major ally of organized labor. The infrastructure law was something that was championed by the administration, and organized labor was thrilled by that, created hundreds of thousands of jobs.
I've created nearly 13.5 million jobs, more jobs in 2 years than any president has created in a 4-year term.
If Biden is reelected, organized labor will continue to be a huge priority for him. President Biden's stance on unions has been basically to implement and to strengthen protections for workers, which has broad implications for whether it's overtime pay or whether how prevailing wages are calculated. This is something that his administration has prioritized. Whereas the former President Donald Trump, he's made overtures and tried to make inroads with auto unions and labor overall, but it's unclear whether he was going to have success with that in the second term. The issue of affordable housing is a huge one for millions of Americans, and it's something that both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump would have to tackle heavily in a second term, especially when it comes to young voters who have found themselves priced out of so many cities and towns across the country. When it comes to Biden, in the past, he's kickstarted the construction of 1.7 million new units, which is something that he feels as though has helped alleviate the problem. In a second term, he would continue with that. Whereas for Donald Trump, he hasn't been too clear on how he would actually tackle the issue of affordable housing. Both Biden and Trump are going to need the votes of millennials and Gen Zers in the upcoming election, especially as it comes to housing affordability, which is something that could be the difference between winning or losing key swing states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Manufacturing is going to be a key issue in this election. Manufacturing has broad implications for the American.
Let's not forget how many manufacturing jobs Trump said he would do and how many times he failed at that. We know 2 states so far, 2 programs.
American economy, especially as it relates to the expansion of this industry when it comes to costs being higher. These are all
And let's not forget that Biden finished or is working on finishing some of those
things that are passed on to American consumers. A strong and healthy manufacturing sector in America is something that both Biden and Trump want, and they both also have different approaches to how they want to tackle that. For Biden, he's focused on lowering the cost of electric vehicles, whereas for former President Donald Trump, he's been more skeptical of EVs, saying that it will harm the U.S. auto industry and that Mexico and China would have a competitive edge there.
Okay, that makes no sense, honestly. And he also said we'd have to build more bridges and stuff. I don't know how heavy he thinks these cars are, but you're not going to have to build different bridges for more eco-friendly cars. I mean, we have to face it. We want the earth here for our children. More pollution, more oil, drill, drill, drill. It's not good for our environment. It's not good for our health. I mean, I don't want an electric car, or they might find something else that they can use besides something that hurts our earth. But I mean, things are improving all the time.
Another important issue is the policies between Biden and Trump when it comes to steel. Biden has fought to keep steel domestically owned. He has not put any additional regulations on it. Whereas for Trump, when he was in office, he placed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. When it comes to manufacturing, you also have to consider their stance on the environment. Biden has crafted many of his regulations with the environment in mind. He sought to tighten pollution standards for vehicles. Whereas for former President Donald Trump, he's been someone who wants to invest more in fossil fuels and has been opposed to the restrictions when it comes to auto pollution. Since their stances are so wildly divergent, this is an issue that is going to be huge for a lot of voters. In a second term, Biden is really going to be focused on strengthening the sorts of regulations when it comes to vehicle production, whereas with Trump, you're going to see a relaxation of those sorts of rules. And you're going to see more power companies have more influence within that particular administration. Here's where Biden and Trump have positioned themselves on the issue of trade and tariffs. Tariffs and trade have major implications for American taxpayers. With inflation already being so rampant, the costs of everyday goods rising through protectionist policies and other strict trade policies could be really, really detrimental to a lot of Americans. In 2016, Trump ran on more protectionist trade policies.
We're going to defend our workers, protect our jobs, and finally put America first.
Is how he made inroads in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. In a second term, he would likely continue those, especially as it relates to tariffs against China and other trade and protectionist policies that he's spoken about heavily. Stance, especially as it relates to strengthening domestic manufacturing. Biden in years past has been supportive of free trade, but there's been a shift in his administration over the past few years. Recently, he's implemented tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from China. That's a big thing that could have really broad implications going forward. And it also mirrors some of the more protectionist policies that were put into place by Trump. With inflation having ravaged the pocketbooks of so many Americans over the past few years, issues of tariffs and trade for both Biden and Trump are going to be something that voters are going to be paying close attention to. The economy is by far the most important issue on the minds of voters heading into the election, whether it is student loan.
Which economy is better now than it was under Trump? I don't care if people don't want to see that. The numbers are there.
Debt relief, whether it's manufacturing, tariffs, and trade, voters are going to want solutions, and they're going to be demanding that.
Okay, so that's basically all I got for you guys. I know this is a very long video, but and this isn't even everything. This is just the most important things that I felt were the most important. I felt like it was important to build a picture of everything, like to build a picture of Trump, to build a, morality and speak for, put the victims' voices out there in case you haven't heard about it. And put the evidence together like we would in any case, psychologically as well. And just see, like, I think he got rid of that whole sexual harassment thing because of himself. Like, he works for himself. He doesn't work for you or I. You can see that narcissists don't care about anybody else, and he's the worst kind of malignant narcissist. And you can tell me that no all you want. You can look at him and tell, but you're having multiple psychologists tell you that. Do you want somebody that's just like, they can push the button at any time, to be sitting there like, okay, this country ticked me off, let me just retaliate on them. He said he wants revenge. What if they do something to us? And he does it in a wrong way. He does it without thinking because he can't think. So these are all things that I want you to consider, besides the fact that he's morally a horrible person and that he more than likely has multiple sexual assaults under his vest, or rapes, or whatever you want to call them. And they're all the same to me. But the choice is yours. It's, again, not right versus left. It's what's right. It's what's right for us. And sometimes we have to take a chance and go with change. Can I promise you that it'll be perfect? No. But look, Biden basically kind of raised terrorists in this way. And a lot of people say she hasn't done anything, but they look at the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. I keep getting told I don't know what I'm talking about. I know more of what I'm talking about now than I did 2 weeks ago. Like, I've went and I've watched different things, and I've went through different articles, and you can't change the numbers. You have an economist that's telling you these numbers. So I know that people don't want to see things for what they are. They want to believe whatever Trump has told them and whatever Trump has said. But he has a pattern of lying and speaking the opposite and doing the opposite of what he says. So the whole reason, again, I wanted to make this video was to show you a pattern of a criminal, to show you the pattern of a person, so that you can make informed decisions. Like I said, I want people to be informed on things. I want people to watch it and think for yourself and be informed on it. Yes, I have my opinions, and I was just I had to do commentary because of the copyright. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I understand. But I was just pointing things out as we were going along. So they are my opinions. You're allowed to have your own, just because you have your own opinion. But at the same time, facts are facts, and things are as they are, and the truth is the truth. And we need to start looking things from a broader perspective, a bigger perspective, and quit looking at the guy like he's not a bad guy, like he's a perfect guy. You need to take all the evidence like you would in any case and look at it like that. Because any criminal, you take all of these things and you add them up. We do that in crime cases all the time. This is a crime channel. That's what I do. That's why I'm called Psychic Sleuth, is because sometimes I go sleuthing. And yes, I do it in a psychic way, but sometimes I like to go through and be like, okay, he has a background of this. He has a past of this. There is a pattern here. When you're trying to find out if someone could be a serial killer, or if someone is capable of something like that, you go into their past. You go into their patterns. You go into their psychology. You do all of that. So that's why I decided to do that. And the bear went off the most it's ever gone since I've had the damn thing 5 times. So anybody that says this is political and not spiritual, get out of that mindset, because this was pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed by Spirit. When they push me, I don't shut up about it. It's for a reason. It's not political. It's not to spread dark. It's to spread truth. It's to spread facts. It's to get people to try to look in different directions and become informed on things. And if you don't want to do that, that's completely your choice and your decision. But here it is, all laid out for you to see for yourself. You don't have to take my word for things. And Spirit validated a lot of things. I'd pay attention to wherever that went off at. But that was validation from Spirit that I was supposed to be doing this, because I've asked and asked and asked and asked. And I've spent 2 days on this. And I could have been doing something else. But for some reason, they want him exposed because he's dangerous. So that's all I've got to say. This is long enough. You've heard me ramble enough, so I think you get the point. So thank you so much for being here and your support. I love you guys. Don't forget about the Otter Spirit bracelets. I'm not going to put the commercial in here, but I love them. They're real gems. You can check them out in the link tree as well. Just make sure if you decide to buy something, remember I'm an ambassador for it. I do get commission off of it. It's Rachelle20. And I do have merchandise and stuff you can find in the store also below in this video. And so I hope everybody stays safe. I hope you just take a look at what I'm trying to tell you and know that I love you and I appreciate you. And there was a reason that I did this. That's all I want to say.